Long before the bustle of mortals and the tremor of cities, there was the serene expanse of Olympus. High upon its cloud-pierced peaks, the early sun stretched its first gentle fingers across marble palaces, casting soft, golden light over the homes of the gods. Among them, the youngest yet quietly steadfast of the Olympians moved with a graceful, deliberate calm. Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, rose from the cool shadow of her chamber, her bare feet brushing softly against the polished stone floor. The air carried a faint warmth, a delicate whisper of the fire that would soon glow steadily in her eternal hearth. Hestia's chambers were simple, unlike the more ornate halls of her siblings. The walls were washed in creamy hues, warmed by the gentle light of oil lamps that flickered like captured fireflies. There was no fanfare here, no gilded statues or grand tapestries. Instead, there were smooth stones arranged carefully around the hearth and soft, woven mats that invited rest and reflection. The stillness of the room suited Hestia, who had always moved through life with gentle precision. She inhaled deeply, savoring the faint scent of ash mingled with the soft perfume of wildflowers, a blend that reminded her of both the permanence and the fleetingness of warmth. From her place by the hearth, she could see the other Olympians beginning their day. Athena's study glimmered with scrolls and polished bronze shields. Apollo's sun chariot cast radiant beams across the mountaintop as it rose higher, and Dionysus's laughter, faint but unmistakable, drifted up from the vineyards below. Hestia felt a quiet smile curve her lips, a subtle recognition of each god's place in the ordered rhythm of Olympus. Though she seldom sought attention or acclaim, she understood the importance of the energy she nurtured. The hearth was not merely fire. It was the pulse of a home, a heart that sustained gatherings, rituals, and gentle conversations alike. Her fingers brushed the edge of the hearthstone, cool yet familiar. She knelt and struck a flint, a small spark catching quickly and igniting the dry kindling she had laid with care. The fire danced upward, curling softly like a living ribbon of amber and gold. Hestia watched it with unwavering focus, her breathing synchronized with its flickering rhythm. The warmth seeped into the room and extended outward, an invisible invitation to those who came near. In the still morning, the small crackle of flames was the only sound she allowed herself to hear. It felt like a quiet song, a comforting, almost sacred note that affirmed life in its gentle persistence. Hestia's thoughts drifted briefly to her family. Cronus and Rhea, the titans who had once ruled in a more tumultuous age, had been powerful and imposing. Their presence in her earliest memories was heavy, filled with awe and quiet fear. Yet even as the youngest, she had learned to move calmly, observing rather than reacting, listening more than speaking. Her siblings, Zeus with his commanding presence, Poseidon with his restless energy, Hades with a deep, shadowed calm, each carried a forceful personality that often stirred Olympus like the wind on the mountainside. Hestia, by contrast, was like the steady stone underfoot, the quiet anchor that allowed storms to pass without being swept away. It was this constancy that the other gods quietly relied upon, though they rarely spoke it aloud. Even when they bickered or demanded attention, Hestia remained at the center of their world in a subtle but profound way. Her heart was where gatherings began and ended. At her fire, agreements were sealed, meals were shared, and the rhythm of life felt steadier. There was a simplicity to her role, yet it was essential, and she carried it without complaint or desire for recognition. A soft breeze fluttered through the open window of her chamber, carrying the fragrance of pine and wild thyme from the slopes below. Hestia closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the fire mingle with the cool air. Her mind wandered gently, not to grand adventures or feats of power, but to the simple act of keeping a flame alive. Each ember she nurtured was a quiet gesture of care, a promise of continuity. There was comfort in that thought, a steady reassurance that even in a world of gods and mortals, of chaos and command, some things endured without need for display. As the morning light deepened, Hestia prepared a small breakfast, placing bowls of honeyed figs, soft bread, and fresh water by the hearth. She moved slowly, deliberately, savoring each gesture. The act of preparing sustenance was more than a ritual. It was a practice of mindfulness, a recognition that nourishment was both physical and spiritual. She arranged the meal with care, setting the bowls symmetrically, letting the firelight glint off the surfaces, enhancing the quiet beauty of the moment. The scent of the food mingled with the warmth of the hearth, and a faint smile touched Hestia's lips as she imagined the mortals below, tending their own fires, moving through their daily lives unaware of the goddess who watched over such simple acts. Though she rarely left Olympus, she felt a kinship with them, a shared understanding that life was found in small, consistent gestures: lighting a flame, sharing a meal, resting beside a warm fire at the close of day. By mid-morning, a few of the Olympians approached, their footsteps soft against the polished floors. Hestia greeted each with a gentle nod and a smile, offering a place by the hearth without ceremony or haste. Athena lingered for a brief discussion of philosophy. Hermes rested briefly, enjoying the quiet warmth before departing on errands. Even Zeus paused for a short moment, feeling the comfort of the stable flame. In these interactions, Hestia remained serene, attentive, but never intrusive. She listened to the voices around her, offering warmth without judgment, a quiet presence that was grounding in ways words could not capture. As the sun climbed higher, Hestia settled again by her fire, letting her thoughts drift with the gentle sway of the flames. Each ember told a story of endurance, of attention, of quiet care. Though the world outside Olympus was vast and ever-changing, inside the palace she maintained constancy. Her heart was a steady rhythm, a gentle drumbeat beneath the grandeur of the gods. The morning waned into afternoon, and Hestia allowed herself a moment of repose. She leaned against the cool stone of the hearth, listening to the occasional laughter, the faint clatter of distant activity, and the soft crackling of her own fire. The combination was a soothing melody, one that seemed to harmonize with the rhythm of her own breathing. In these quiet moments, she felt a gentle wonder at her place in the universe, not as a ruler or a warrior, but as the keeper of warmth, the guardian of the hearth. And so, the first day in her story unfolded, calm and unhurried, full of small gestures that held quiet power. Each spark, each flicker, each gentle ripple of sound became part of a larger pattern, a rhythm that would carry through her days and the days of those around her. The world beyond Olympus might be loud, chaotic, and unpredictable, but here, in the soft glow of her hearth, there was peace. There was constancy. There was Hestia, quietly tending her flame, and through it, tending the heart of Olympus itself. As evening approached, the light shifted again, casting long, gentle shadows across the marble floors. Hestia's fire burned steadily, a soft beacon that promised warmth and welcome. She placed the last of the bowls away and settled beside the hearth once more, her fingers brushing the smooth stones, feeling the comforting heat beneath her palms. Outside, the wind stirred lightly, rustling leaves in distant forests, carrying the faint sound of life toward the mountaintop. Hestia closed her eyes, listening, breathing, and feeling the quiet pulse of the day winding down. And in that calm, glowing space, she imagined tomorrow's dawn, where the fire would rise again, gentle and unassuming, yet full of quiet life. The morning on Olympus was always soft, but for Hestia, it held a delicate kind of promise. As the pale light of dawn brushed against the peaks of the mountains, she could hear the quiet stirrings of her family in their chambers. Zeus's voice, firm yet warm, drifted faintly through the halls, giving instructions that carried authority without harshness. Poseidon's laughter echoed from a distant terrace, mingling with the low rumble of the sea beyond the mountains, though today the waves were unusually calm. And somewhere below, Hades' presence whispered through the shadowed corridors, steady and unshakable, like stone carved into shape over millennia. Hestia rose with the sun, her feet touching the cool marble floors of her chamber. She paused by the hearth, observing the fire that had burned gently through the night. The embers glowed faintly, warm and steady, as if they too had rested and gathered strength for the day. With a careful hand, she added fresh kindling, watching the flames rise and stretch upward like the first gentle breath of morning. It was in these small, deliberate acts that she found a deep sense of connection, not only to the fire itself, but to the family she cherished. Her thoughts wandered to her parents, Cronus and Rhea. Hestia remembered the quiet, trembling mornings of her earliest childhood. Cronus had ruled with a towering presence, his mood shifting like clouds over the mountaintops. Rhea, by contrast, was a steady comfort, her voice soft yet infused with an unshakable resolve. She had taught Hestia, often in whispered moments, that there was strength in stillness, and that sometimes the quietest flame could illuminate more than the grandest blaze. Those lessons shaped Hestia, instilling in her patience and clarity that would guide her through millennia. By mid-morning, her siblings had begun to gather near the central hall. Hestia's hearth was at the center of the palace, both physically and spiritually. It was here that offerings were brought, and here that the Olympians convened in the quiet hours before the day's grander events. When Zeus entered the hall, his presence was commanding, yet he approached the hearth with a subtle deference that acknowledged its significance. Hestia greeted him with a gentle nod, her hands moving to adjust the small bowls of fruits and breads she had prepared. Zeus paused, smiling faintly, and allowed himself a quiet moment by the warmth of her fire before the day demanded his attention elsewhere. Poseidon arrived shortly after, his hair damp from the sea breeze, and his eyes reflecting the soft turquoise of the waves. He laughed lightly, a sound that rippled like water over stones, and leaned briefly near the hearth. Hestia welcomed him as she did all who approached, offering the same quiet attentiveness, the same calm presence that could soothe even the most restless of hearts. Poseidon inhaled the scent of the fire, a faintly smoky warmth mingled with the aroma of her simple meal, and for a moment he too was grounded by the rhythm of her calm gestures. It was not only her brothers who came to the hearth. Demeter appeared, carrying a basket of grains and early blooms from the fertile fields she tended. She greeted Hestia with a warmth that mirrored her own, setting down her offerings beside the flames. The hearth seemed to welcome them both, radiating a gentle energy that acknowledged their shared bond. Hestia felt a subtle joy in these moments, a quiet recognition that her presence was part of the thread connecting each of them, weaving their lives together in unseen but undeniable ways. As the morning deepened, Hestia reflected on her role within the family. She was often called the guardian of the hearth, the keeper of domestic peace. Yet it was not merely a title. It was an understanding of responsibility, a quiet vigilance that required attention without demand. She ensured that the fire never faltered, that warmth was always present, and that each family member could return to a place of calm, no matter the storms outside. This responsibility was subtle, almost invisible, but she carried it with a deep, abiding care. A gentle breeze drifted through the hall as the palace doors opened. Hestia inhaled the mingling scents of fresh flowers, sea air, and distant pine forests. Each fragrance carried a story, a memory, a small whisper of the wider world beyond Olympus. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the warmth of the hearth seep through her, grounding her in the familiar pulse of her home. In these quiet moments, she felt both the vastness of her existence and the intimacy of the small, deliberate acts that defined her life. Lighting the fire, arranging the meals, offering a soft word or smile. These were gestures of care that spoke louder than any command or proclamation. The siblings moved through the hall in their own rhythms. Athena, ever vigilant and thoughtful, paused to discuss plans for the day's guidance of mortal cities, yet she lingered near the hearth long enough to absorb its warmth. Hestia watched, her gaze soft, noticing the brief relaxation that touched even the most disciplined among them. It was these tiny glimpses that reminded her of the subtle, pervasive influence of her presence. The hearth was not merely a physical flame. It was a source of emotional balance, a sanctuary from the unceasing motion of life. Even Hades, who rarely sought the comfort of others, drew close to the hearth for a moment. He remained quiet, as always, but Hestia noticed the faint easing of tension in his posture as he stood near the fire. It was a small victory, invisible to the unobservant eye, yet profoundly meaningful. She understood that her role extended beyond mere ceremony. It touched hearts and spirits in ways that required no acknowledgement. As the day unfolded, Hestia moved with calm attentiveness, tending the hearth with careful hands. She added wood to sustain the gentle blaze, arranged fresh water in simple vessels, and observed the soft interplay of sunlight with the curling smoke. Each movement was deliberate, a meditation of sorts, weaving serenity into the fabric of Olympus. She noticed the faint patterns in the rising smoke, the subtle warmth that radiated into the polished stone floors, and she allowed herself to marvel quietly at the elegance of such simple interactions. By afternoon, the palace hall was alive with gentle activity. The siblings conversed in measured tones, discussed plans, and shared small gestures of camaraderie. Hestia remained a constant presence, guiding the rhythm of their interactions not through words, but through the quiet energy of her hearth. She sensed the flow of moods, the subtle tensions, and the moments of calm, adjusting her attention like one might tend to a delicate flame. It was an invisible art, one that required patience, perception, and unwavering care. As evening approached, Hestia prepared the hearth for the night. The flames glowed steadily, golden and reassuring, casting gentle shadows across the marble walls. She arranged the last of the meal, set bowls for any who might still arrive, and sank onto the soft mat beside the hearth. The day's quiet rhythm had passed, leaving behind a tapestry of warmth and steady comfort. Hestia's gaze lingered on the fire, watching the flicker of each ember, each tiny dance of light that seemed to echo the pulse of life itself. Outside, the wind rustled softly through the mountain pines, carrying the faint sense of distant forests and hidden streams. Hestia breathed in the evening air, feeling the harmony of her small world within the vastness of Olympus. She closed her eyes, letting the calm of the hearth wrap around her, a gentle cocoon against the larger currents of divine existence. Tomorrow she would rise again, tend the flames, and nurture the quiet connections that bound her family together. And as night fell, the palace glowed softly, each flame a tender promise of continuity, warmth, and care. Hestia felt a subtle sense of wonder, not at grand adventures or feats of power, but at the simple, enduring act of keeping a fire alive, a fire that nurtured not only bodies but hearts, a quiet testament to the strength found in stillness. In the soft hush of the evening, the hearth's warmth and gentle glow prepared the world for rest, carrying with it the gentle certainty that tomorrow would arrive, and with it, another day of quiet care, steadfast presence, and serene wonder. The morning air on Olympus carried a stillness that Hestia cherished. The peaks glimmered in soft, pale gold, the clouds drifting lazily across the sky, their edges tinged with rose and cream. From her chamber, she could see her hearth waiting, the embers from the night's fire still glowing faintly, promising warmth and comfort. Rising slowly, she approached the hearth with a deliberate grace that had become a quiet ritual over countless days. Each step felt measured, as though the rhythm of her own heartbeat synchronized with the steady pulse of the flames. Hestia's role among the Olympians was subtle but deeply significant. She had always been gentle, patient, and observant, her presence infusing the halls of Olympus with calm that none of her siblings could command through force or grandeur. Yet today, her thoughts were drawn inward to a question that had quietly lingered in her mind for some time: how to maintain this constancy, this quiet influence throughout eternity. She knelt before the hearth, her hands brushing the warm stone, feeling the fire beneath her palms. The sensation was both comforting and grounding, a reminder of the simple power of care, persistence, and attention. The fire flickered as if in response to her thoughts, small sparks rising like tiny golden petals, dissolving into the light. Hestia closed her eyes, breathing deeply, allowing herself to sink fully into the quiet intimacy of the moment. She considered her siblings, Zeus with his commanding presence and the endless demands of leadership, Poseidon whose restless nature stirred seas and tempests alike, Demeter with her devotion to growth and fertility, Hades, always steadfast yet solitary in the shadowed halls of his domain. Each of them wielded power in vast visible ways, but Hestia's power was subtle, almost invisible, and yet profoundly enduring. In the gentle hush of her thoughts, a memory surfaced, her earliest days among the gods, when their world was still forming in deliberate balance. Cronus had ruled with a fearful hand, and Hestia, as the firstborn, had watched quietly, observing the cycles of chaos and calm, learning the value of steadiness. Rhea had whispered lessons of patience and care, teaching her that a flame tended with constancy could outlast the strongest storm. That lesson etched deeply into her heart, shaped every choice she had made, every small action she performed, from tending the hearth to quietly guiding the energies of her siblings. This morning, however, a decision became clear. Hestia understood that her gift, her quiet power of stability, warmth, and care, was not meant to be shared briefly or intermittently. It was a presence that needed constancy, a fire that required eternal tending. She realized, with a soft certainty, that she would never seek grandeur, acclaim, or command. Instead, she would dedicate herself fully to the hearth, anchoring the rhythm of Olympus and extending her care beyond the mountain peaks to the mortal world below. Her resolve was gentle but absolute. Rising from her knees, she straightened her posture, letting the warmth of the hearth seep into her very being. Hestia moved through the palace with a calm deliberation, her every gesture infused with intention. She visited each sibling in turn, offering quiet presence, a word of acknowledgement, a shared moment of warmth. Though they continued with their daily affairs, she could feel the subtle shifts her presence made, the smoothing of tension, the softening of moods, the gentle tether that bound the family together. Each interaction confirmed her choice. She would remain at the hearth, a steadfast guardian of warmth, a presence unnoticed yet essential. By afternoon, the decision settled fully within her. Hestia returned to her chamber and arranged the hearth for the day's rituals. She laid kindling with careful attention, the fire catching immediately and dancing softly in response to her care. She added water to small bowls and set them at the edge of the hearth, simple gestures that were nonetheless infused with her intention. Each act was a quiet affirmation of her commitment, a promise to sustain the flame, the family, and the home for all time. Even the other Olympians felt the shift, though none spoke of it. Zeus, observing her from a distance, sensed the unwavering steadiness she brought, an energy that balanced his own authority. Poseidon, returning from a morning's wander along the shores, paused near the hearth, feeling a subtle calm touch his restless spirit. Demeter lingered briefly, noting how the fire seemed to enhance the serenity of the palace. Even Hades, often impervious to such energies, felt the quiet, constant presence that connected him to the life and warmth of the world above. Hestia's thoughts drifted toward the mortal world. Though she rarely left Olympus, she could sense the flickers of hearth fires in distant villages and households. Each one, small and fragile, carried echoes of her own work. She imagined the hands that tended these fires, the families who gathered around them, the quiet conversations shared over bread and wine. In these imagined scenes, she felt an expansive sense of care, a gentle fulfillment in knowing that her presence, though unseen, extended into the lives of those who might never glimpse the God who nurtured their comfort. As evening approached, Hestia arranged the hearth once more, letting the flames rise steadily. She moved slowly, deliberately, adjusting each piece of wood and ensuring the fire's warmth spread evenly across the room. The scent of smoke mingled with the faint aroma of herbs she had scattered near the fire, a simple offering of comfort and continuity. She felt a quiet anticipation for the night ahead, knowing that the flames would continue to burn, offering stability and calm to all who came near. A gentle breeze drifted through the chamber, rustling the soft curtains at the window and carrying faint scents from the surrounding mountains. Hestia inhaled deeply, letting the natural fragrances mingle with the warmth of the hearth. In that quiet moment, she felt fully present, connected to the pulse of Olympus and the threads of life extending beyond. The decision she had made, silent, deliberate, eternal, resonated in every fiber of her being. She understood that true power was not measured in grandeur or conquest, but in the quiet constancy that allowed others to flourish. Night settled gently over Olympus, painting the clouds in soft shades of lavender and indigo. Hestia knelt by the hearth, feeling the gentle heat seep into her hands and arms. The flames rose and danced like living companions, small yet unyielding, echoing the resolve she had embraced. She allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection, imagining the countless days ahead, the fires she would tend, the meals she would arrange, and the gentle guidance she would provide. The world was vast, unpredictable, and ever-changing, yet she remained a steadfast presence, a calm and nurturing flame amidst the movement of gods and mortals alike. As she settled beside the fire to rest, her thoughts carried a subtle wonder. The eternal flame she would tend was more than warmth. It was a living symbol of care, constancy, and quiet strength. And though her role would never bring acclaim, Hestia felt a deep contentment, a profound joy in embracing the life she had chosen, a life of gentle influence, enduring presence, and unwavering love for the hearth that connected all things. The sun rose slowly over Olympus, spilling soft gold across the marble pinnacles and cloud-strewn terraces. Hestia, as always, was already tending her hearth, her fingers brushing the warm stone and feeding the flames with gentle care. Today, however, her thoughts wandered beyond the palace walls, beyond the laughter and chatter of her immortal siblings, to a world far below, the world of mortals. She had watched them often from the high peaks, tiny figures moving through valleys, tending small fires, sharing meals, living lives that were fleeting yet full of quiet purpose. Her curiosity was gentle, like the first stirrings of a breeze, but persistent. Each human hearth she observed reminded her of her own, a reflection of the same care she offered in Olympus. She imagined the smoke rising from a simple clay hearth in a modest home, The aroma of bread baking, the warmth of a family gathered together. There was something profoundly moving in the simplicity and dedication of mortal life, a rhythm that echoed her own devotion to her eternal flame. Hestia decided that she would extend her quiet presence beyond Olympus, not by walking among mortals, but by guiding the fires they tended. She moved through the palace with calm intent, preparing small gifts of warmth, tiny sparks, gentle whispers of flame, subtle nudges of inspiration for those who would need them. Each ember carried her attention, her care, and her subtle energy, ensuring that the mortals' hearths would burn steadily even when the world seemed unpredictable or uncertain. She thought of the families she had seen, the parents preparing simple meals, their hands calloused yet gentle, the children playing quietly near the fire, their laughter a soft harmony with the crackling flames. Hestia's heart swelled with a quiet tenderness. She imagined the glow of their hearths reflecting in their eyes, the comfort it offered in times of worry, the way it drew people together without requiring ceremony or recognition. This was the magic she sought to nurture, not grand displays of power, but the persistent, sustaining warmth that made life feel safe and whole. As the morning wore on, Hestia settled beside her own hearth, closing her eyes to better sense the fires she influenced below. She felt the faint flicker of flames in distant villages, tiny sparks in the hands of mortals tending their daily routines. With each breath, she infused her quiet energy into them, ensuring that they would have warmth to sustain meals, light to guide their evenings, and comfort to ease the tensions of life. It was a subtle power imperceptible to most, yet profoundly meaningful. Each hearth she touched became a small sanctuary, a reminder that care and constancy were more powerful than chaos or conflict. Her thoughts returned to the gods, to her family, and she felt a gentle joy in the symmetry of existence. Just as she maintained balance in Olympus, she now extended it to the mortal world, creating a thread of continuity between realms. Each small act of tending a flame reinforced the interconnectedness of all life, the imperceptible guidance of her presence bridging heaven and earth, immortals and mortals alike. Hestia considered the rituals she would inspire, the ways mortals would honor her without knowing it. In some homes, a small offering of bread would be placed near the hearth, a gesture of gratitude for warmth and sustenance. In others, the careful tending of the fire, keeping it alive through cold nights and stormy days, would become a subtle homage. She imagined the quiet pride and satisfaction that would accompany these acts, the sense of stability they would foster in the hearts of those who performed them. The day passed in this gentle rhythm. Hestia moved back and forth between the fires of Olympus and the invisible sparks she nurtured among mortals. She sensed the delicate balance of energy, the ebb and flow of attention and care required to maintain stability. It was an endless task, yet it brought her no weariness, only quiet fulfillment. The warmth of her own hearth reflected the glow she inspired elsewhere, a subtle, unbroken chain of light and comfort. By afternoon, the palace hall was alive with soft sounds, the rustle of garments as Athena moved through her scrolls, the faint echo of Poseidon's laughter returning from the distant sea, the low, measured presence of Hades moving through the shadowed corridors. Hestia observed them all with serene attentiveness, noticing the moments when her subtle influence soothed tensions, encouraged cooperation, or simply offered a space for reflection. Her hearth was more than a flame. It was a focal point of calm, a place where energies converged and balanced each other, where both gods and mortals could draw strength in quiet, unassuming ways. As evening approached, Hestia prepared her hearth for the night. The flames rose steadily, golden and steady, casting soft reflections on the marble walls. She arranged bowls of water and small offerings nearby, subtle gestures of care that completed the day's rituals. The palace was calm, the gods engaged in their respective duties, and beyond Olympus, the mortal world hummed softly with the quiet rhythm of fires tended, meals shared, and families gathered in warmth. Hestia settled beside her hearth, feeling the gentle heat seep into her hands and arms. She allowed her attention to drift outward, sensing the flames she had nurtured in distant homes. Each flicker, each small glow, was a quiet testament to her presence, a reassurance that care and stability could endure across distance and time. Even without mortal recognition, her work mattered. She felt it in the subtle balance of energies, in the warmth that radiated from hearth to hearth, in the quiet comfort that she could provide. Night descended on Olympus with a soft hush. The clouds above the peaks were painted in deep purples and blues, the last rays of sun glimmering faintly on distant stone. Hestia's fire glowed steadily, unwavering, a small yet potent reminder of constancy. She rested her hands on the hearthstone, feeling the pulse of warmth beneath her fingertips. The mortals' fires were secure, their families nourished and comforted, and her own hearth stood as a gentle beacon in the palace. As she closed her eyes, she imagined the countless homes she had touched, the lives her subtle care had steadied. Though her work was quiet, it was far-reaching, a thread of warmth that connected Olympus to the mortal world below. And in that connection, Hestia felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had chosen her path, embraced her role, and extended her presence in ways both seen and unseen, gentle yet enduring. Tomorrow, she would rise again, tend the flames, and guide the subtle energies that connected gods and mortals. Each day would bring the same rhythm, the same quiet purpose, and yet it was endlessly satisfying. The hearth was alive, and through it, so too was Hestia, a constant flame of care, stability, and warmth that would endure for all time. And so, as night deepened over the mountains, and the fires of Olympus and mortal homes alike glowed softly in the dark, Hestia rested beside her hearth. The warmth surrounded her like a gentle embrace, a quiet promise that all will be tended, all will be nourished, and all would continue, as steady and enduring as the eternal flame she had chosen to guard. The sun rose over Olympus in a soft, pale glow, touching the peaks of the mountains with gentle warmth. Hestia stirred quietly, her hands reaching instinctively toward the hearth. The fire, which had burned steadily through the night, welcomed her with a gentle crackle, as though it recognized her presence. She knelt, brushing her fingers along the warm stones, and allowed herself a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the faint scents of smoke, herbs, and distant forests carried on the morning breeze. Hestia's thoughts, as they often did in these quiet hours, drifted downward to the mortal world. She could sense the subtle flicker of human fires, the small embers rising for hearths in humble homes. Her attention settled on a small village tucked into a valley below Olympus. The villagers were stirring, tending to their morning routines, unaware that a goddess watched over their hearths. Yet she felt a gentle anticipation. Something in the rhythm of their lives suggested that they were ready to honor the hearth, to offer thanks for warmth and sustenance in their daily lives. She allowed her presence to drift toward the village, unseen yet subtly felt in the warmth of each fire. A young woman, carrying water from the stream, paused near her hearth and instinctively arranged a small offering, a bowl of milk, a slice of bread, and a few fragrant herbs. The gesture was unspoken, yet it resonated deeply with Hestia. The goddess's heart swelled with a quiet joy, the satisfaction of knowing that her influence inspired gratitude and care, even among those who did not fully understand it. The offering caught the flame's attention, as though the fire itself recognized the gesture. Hestia watched as the flames flickered brighter, reaching upward in a gentle dance. The warmth spread throughout the small room, touching the faces of the family gathered around, their expressions softening in a moment of calm appreciation. Hestia felt the satisfaction of continuity, her own care mirrored in the mortal act of reverence, a small cycle of devotion and attention that linked the divine to the human. Encouraged by this quiet interaction, Hestia extended her influence to nearby homes. She guided hands with invisible, gentle nudges, ensuring that fires were tended with care, bowls were arranged thoughtfully, and offerings were placed with intention. She watched as villagers moved with increased mindfulness, their eyes lingering on the hearths with appreciation and warmth. In these subtle gestures, Hestia recognized a reflection of her own dedication, a commitment to nurturing life, maintaining stability, and providing comfort through small yet meaningful actions. The goddess paused to observe a young boy, carefully placing a sprig of thyme near his family's hearth. His small hands trembled slightly with effort, yet the fire seemed to respond to his attention, burning brighter in quiet acknowledgement. Hestia felt a tender connection with him, a shared understanding of the importance of nurturing and protecting warmth. Though he could not see her, the boy's actions resonated with the rhythm of her own care, a small testament to the universality of attention and devotion across both mortal and divine realms. As morning gave way to afternoon, Hestia continued her gentle supervision. She sensed the spread of gratitude and care across the village, a network of tiny flames echoing her influence. Each offering placed upon hearth was a whisper of respect, a gesture of connection that transcended words. Hestia observed these moments with quiet pride, her own heart reflecting the harmony she nurtured. The mortals' awareness was small, but was enough. Their actions spoke of care, devotion, and the subtle acknowledgement of forces beyond themselves. Meanwhile, in Olympus, the other gods moved through their day with characteristic energy. Zeus, occupied with matters of governance, occasionally glanced toward Hestia's hearth, sensing the steady presence that anchored the palace. Poseidon, after his morning wander along the shore, returned briefly, pausing near the hearth, feeling its warmth and serenity. Even Demeter, always attentive to growth and fertility, lingered near Hestia, noting the quiet influence the goddess radiated. And Hades, ever shadowed in his domains below, felt the subtle pull of her energy, a reminder of balance and constancy. Yet all of them understood that Hestia's power was not visible in displays of force or grandeur. It was present in quiet, patient, enduring acts that nurtured both gods and mortals alike. By evening, the village fires glowed steadily, each hearth a gentle reflection of Hestia's care. Families gathered around them, sharing meals and conversation, unaware of the divine attention that ensured their warmth and safety. Hestia lingered, watching the flames flicker and rise, the smoke curling gracefully toward the sky. She felt a profound satisfaction in this quiet interaction, a subtle sense of accomplishment that carried no need for recognition or reward. Her presence, though unseen, had established a pattern of care, gratitude, and attentiveness that would endure across generations. The goddess returned her focus to her own hearth in Olympus as twilight approached. She arranged bowls of water and small offerings, letting the fire settle into a calm, rhythmic glow. The palace was quiet, the gods engaged in their respective tasks, and yet Hestia's influence extended beyond these walls, touching lives and hearts throughout the mortal world. Each flicker of flame, each warm meal, and each gesture of gratitude was part of a subtle tapestry she wove invisibly, connecting realms and hearts through the gentle act of care. As night deepened, Hestia rested beside her hearth, her hands brushing the warm stones, feeling the steady pulse of the fire beneath her fingers. She allowed her attention to drift outward, sensing the flames she had inspired in distant homes, the quiet contentment of families nurtured by her invisible hand. Each flicker of light was a promise, a small reassurance that warmth, care, and attention could endure even in the face of uncertainty. Hestia closed her eyes, letting the gentle heat of the hearth surround her like a comforting embrace. Tomorrow she would rise again, tend her eternal fire, and extend her quiet guidance to both Olympus and the mortal world. Each day would bring new hearts to nurture, new acts of devotion to inspire, and new opportunities to weave calm and warmth into the fabric of life. And so, as the stars emerged above the mountaintops and the village fires glimmered softly below, Hestia rested, her heart full of quiet wonder. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, a soft and enduring presence that promised warmth, care, and constancy to all who sought it, whether mortal or divine. The early light of morning painted Olympus in soft shades of gold and rose, filtering gently through the marble pillars of the palace. Hestia stirred quietly, her feet brushing the smooth stone floors as she moved toward her hearth. The fire that had burned steadily through the night welcomed her, flames flickering upward as if greeting a long-held companion. She knelt, feeling the warmth beneath her palms, allowing herself a moment to breathe in the quiet serenity of the moment. Today, however, her attention was drawn outward, toward the growing network of mortal hearts and the subtle recognition of her presence in their lives. Hestia had observed families offering bread, milk, and herbs beside their fires, gestures of gratitude that resonated deeply with her own dedication. She realized that her influence could extend further, not just in individual homes, but to places set aside for collective devotion. The concept of a sacred hearth, a center of warmth and care for many, began to form in her thoughts. As Hestia moved through the palace, her mind wandered to the idea of temples. They would not be grand halls filled with ornate statues or dramatic displays. Instead, they would mirror her own chambers, simple, serene, and centered around the hearth. Each temple would contain a flame, always tended, a place where mortals could gather to feel warmth, reflect, and offer quiet gratitude. She imagined families coming together, communities drawn to a space of calm, where the fire served as both guide and companion. Her presence, though unseen, began to shape the intentions of mortals. Builders felt a gentle inspiration as they laid stones for the first sacred hearths, tending the fire at the center with careful hands. Families brought offerings of grain, oil, and small tokens, placing them with respect around the flame. Hestia sensed the rhythm of devotion growing stronger, the connection between the mortal hearts and her eternal fire deepening. Each act of care, each thoughtful gesture, became part of the larger tapestry she wove, linking the divine and human through warmth, stability, and presence. Within Olympus, her siblings noticed the subtle influence spreading to the mortal world. Zeus, overseeing the balance of order, acknowledged the quiet strength of her reach. Poseidon felt the steadiness of her influence echoing in the waters of human settlements along the coast, where hearth fires burned as anchors against the night. Demeter, attentive to growth and sustenance, recognized the harmony Hestia inspired in the cycles of daily life. Even Hades, who rarely engaged with mortals, sensed the depth of her presence and the invisible stability she provided. The first sacred hearths became centers of quiet devotion. Mortals approached them not with demands or loud proclamation, but with gentle attentiveness, arranging offerings and lighting flames with care. Hestia guided these actions subtly, ensuring that each hearth glowed steadily, providing warmth and comfort to those gathered. She watched as families shared simple meals, children laughed softly in the firelight, and elders told stories that echoed through the rooms. The sacred hearth became a place where life's rhythm could be observed, honored, and nourished. Hestia herself moved between the divine and mortal realms with quiet grace. She tended her eternal flame in Olympus while simultaneously influencing countless hearts below, her energy stretching across the landscape like a gentle, unseen tide. She felt a profound satisfaction in the continuity of her work, the way immortal families mirrored the dedication she maintained in her own halls. Each ember, each flicker of flame, was a sign that her care had been received, that the warmth she nurtured could exist both in the heart of Olympus and in the homes of mortals. As the sun climbed higher, Hestia arranged her own hearth with care. Bowls of water, small offerings of herbs, and freshly baked bread rested at the edges, each element chosen thoughtfully. The flames danced lightly, casting soft reflections across the walls and floors, comforting presence that radiated through the palace. She watched them, imagining the similar movements of mortals tending their hearths far below, and felt a gentle connection to each home, each family, each small act of gratitude. In the afternoon, the palace hall filled with soft sounds. Athena moved quietly with her scrolls, Poseidon returned from his wanderings along the shores, and Hades' measured steps echoed faintly through the corridors. Hestia noticed how her calm presence influenced the space, smoothing tensions, providing a subtle rhythm to the interactions around her. The sacred hearths she guided below reflected this same energy, a quiet center, steady and unassuming, yet essential to the balance of life. By evening, the temples of Hestia glimmered with the first sacred flames. Mortals gathered to offer bread, oil, and small herbs, performing the same careful tending that Hestia herself practiced in Olympus. The glow of the fires reached into their hearts, offering warmth, comfort, and a sense of stability. Hestia rested beside her hearth, feeling the energy ripple across both realms. Each flame mirrored her own, creating a network of light and care that connected gods and mortals, Olympus and the valleys below. The night settled gently over Olympus. The stars reflected faintly in the distant clouds, and the mortal world below was alive with flickering hearths and quiet devotion. Hestia's eternal fire glowed steadily, calm beacon at the heart of the palace. She rested beside it, her hands brushing the warm stones, and let her attention drift outward, sensing the interconnected flame she had inspired. Tomorrow she would rise again, tend her eternal fire, and continue guiding the sacred hearths of mortals. Each day would bring new opportunities to nurture, connect, and inspire through the gentle, enduring power of the hearth. And in that quiet, steady presence, Hestia felt a profound joy, a fulfillment born not from recognition or acclaim, but from the knowledge that her work provided warmth, care, and stability to countless lives, both mortal and divine. As she closed her eyes, the palace and the world below basked in the soft glow of her care. The eternal flame she tended and the sacred hearth she inspired burned steadily, carrying the promise of warmth, guidance, and gentle constancy for all who sought them. And in that quiet night, Hestia rested peacefully, surrounded by the comfort of countless fires, each one a testament to her unwavering devotion. The morning on Olympus arrived softly, with golden light spilling across the marble halls and reflecting in the gentle curl of smoke rising from Hestia's hearth. The fire had burned steadily through the night, its warm glow a quiet companion. Hestia approached it with slow, deliberate movements, hands brushing the stones as she fed the flames. Each ember seemed to respond to her care, stretching upward in gentle arcs, warm and steady. She breathed deeply, savoring the comforting rhythm of tending the eternal fire. Below Olympus, the mortal world began to awaken with a subtle excitement that Hestia could sense. Families approached their hearths with offerings in hand, bowls of milk, fresh bread, sprigs of fragrant herbs. But today felt different. Hestia sensed a new energy, a sharing tension that went beyond the quiet gestures of individual homes. The villagers had gathered together in the early hours, bringing their flames and offerings to the newly consecrated sacred hearths she had inspired. The first festival dedicated to her presence was quietly unfolding. The concept of celebration was gentle, without loud fanfare or overwhelming spectacle. It was a festival of warmth, care, and continuity. Children carried small bundles of wood, adding them carefully to the sacred fire, while elders placed loaves of bread and jars of oil around its edges. The flames seemed to dance brighter in response, acknowledging the devotion and attentiveness of the mortals. Hestia watched invisibly, feeling a quiet swell of joy as the human hearts aligned with the steady rhythm she had nurtured. Her attention lingered on a small family tending the fire. The mother's hands were careful and deliberate, arranging bread and water in precise, thoughtful patterns. The father's gaze lingered on the flame, his expression softening as he observed the children helping with tiny sprigs of herbs. Each movement, each gesture, resonated with the goddess's own dedication to care. She could feel the subtle satisfaction that arose in the family, a recognition that they were participating in something enduring, something connected to the divine presence that guided and nurtured their lives. The festival spread slowly through neighboring villages. Though no one could see her, Hestia's influence ensured that every flame was tended with attention and reverence. The air carried the scent of burning wood, mixed with the subtle fragrance of herbs and baked bread. Laughter and quiet conversation filled the spaces around the fires, soft and gentle, harmonizing with the flickering light. Hestia moved through the invisible currents of these celebrations, guiding hands, steadying flames, and nurturing a sense of communal warmth. In Olympus, Hestia tended her own hearth with the same care she extended to the mortals. The fire rose steadily, golden and calm, reflecting in the polished floors. Her siblings moved through their own morning routines, and some paused to observe the quiet energy radiating from her space. Zeus noted the unshakable steadiness that seemed to anchor the palace. Poseidon sensed the calm extending even to the coastal settlements below, and Demeter reflected on how the Festival of Hearths reinforced the cycles of life and nourishment she oversaw. Even Hades felt the quiet pull of continuity, a reminder of the threads that connected the mortal and divine. The festival continued into the afternoon. Hestia sensed the subtle rhythms of energy as the mortals coordinated their offerings and attended to their sacred flames. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she observed the patterns emerging. Small communities gathered together, sharing meals, exchanging stories, and tending the fire as a symbol of connection and care. Each flicker of flame reflected her influence, a quiet affirmation of the enduring power of warmth, attention, and presence. Children laughed softly, playing near the edges of the firelight, their shadows dancing against the walls of simple dwellings. Elders told stories, their voices gentle yet deliberate, echoing through the spaces around the hearth. Hestia could feel the comfort and security the fire provided, not only in warmth but in reassurance, the certainty that care and attention could endure across generations. She sensed the human hearts quietly learning the rhythm of giving and receiving, of tending and respecting, and she felt a profound joy in knowing her influence helped create that understanding. As evening approached, the festival drew to a close. Families lingered for a final moment by the sacred hearths, adding one last small offering and allowing the flames to burn steadily through the night. Hestia's attention followed each fire, ensuring that every ember glowed with gentle warmth. She moved between Olympus and the mortal world seamlessly, her eternal flame reflecting the network of devotion and care that had grown from her quiet influence. Returning to her chamber, Hestia prepared her own hearth for the night. She arranged small bowls of water and offerings around the fire, allowing it to settle into a calm, rhythmic glow. The palace was quiet, the gods engaged in their separate duties, yet her presence radiated throughout, a steady anchor amidst movement and change. Beyond Olympus, the mortal fires burned on, their warmth and light extending through the villages and homes she had guided. Each flame carried her subtle presence, a reminder of care, constancy, and gentle connection. Night descended over the mountains and valleys, painting the sky in deep purples and indigos. Hestia knelt beside her hearth, hands brushing the warm stones, feeling the pulse of the fire beneath her palms. She allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection, sensing the collective rhythm of the festival and the innumerable flames she had nurtured. Her heart was full of satisfaction, not for recognition or reward, but for the continuity of warmth, care, and connection she had fostered. As she rested, Hestia imagined the countless hearths glowing in the mortal world, each one a beacon of attention and devotion. Tomorrow she would rise again, tend her eternal fire, and continue guiding the sacred flames that connected Olympus to human lives. Each day would bring new opportunities to nurture, connect, and inspire through the gentle power of the hearth. And in that quiet, steady presence, Hestia felt a profound fulfillment, a life dedicated to warmth, care, and enduring connection, both divine and mortal. And so, as the stars emerged in the night sky, and the sacred hearths glimmered softly below, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended, and the flame she inspired in countless mortal homes, burned steadily, carrying a promise of warmth, guidance, and gentle constancy for all who sought them. In that quiet night, the goddess of the hearth was fully at peace, surrounded by the comfort and continuity of her eternal work. The sun rose over Olympus with a gentle blush, spilling warm light across the marble pillars and glimmering in the curling smoke of Hestia's hearth. She moved with quiet purpose, her feet making soft contact with the polished floors as she approached the eternal fire. Kneeling before it, she fed the flames with deliberate care, letting the warmth seep into her hands and arms. Each flicker seemed to respond to her attention, stretching upward like a gentle sigh, welcoming the day with steady golden light. Hestia's thoughts, as they often did in the morning hours, drifted to the mortal world below. She imagined the simple rhythm of daily life in small homes, mothers preparing meals, fathers arranging the household, children stirring in their beds, and elders tending the fire with careful hands. In each scene, the hearth was the quiet center, radiating warmth, comfort, and stability. She smiled softly to herself, feeling a profound connection to the lives unfolding far below Olympus, lives she touched invisibly through her guidance. Her attention focused on a modest home nestled in a fertile valley. The family there moved with gentle purpose, arranging their morning meal near the hearth, adding a small offering of bread and herbs. The children's laughter mingled with the soft crackle of the fire, a harmonious blend of sound that seemed to ripple through the room. Hestia could feel the subtle joy in the parents' movements, the sense of care and responsibility intertwined in every task. It was in these quiet routines she realized that the essence of her influence was most profoundly felt. The goddess observed how the fire's warmth guided the household. The flickering light illuminated small details, the careful hands kneading dough, the soft brush of a child's hair, the comforting presence of a father reading quietly to his family. Each gesture was enhanced by the calm energy Hestia subtly imparted, reinforcing the bonds between family members and creating a rhythm of domestic harmony. She felt a deep satisfaction in knowing that her presence encouraged patience, attentiveness, and gentle care in these mortal lives. Hestia's influence extended beyond individual homes. In small villages, she guided collective activities that centered around the hearth. Families gathered to cook together, share meals, and pass stories from one generation to the next. She ensured that each fire burned steadily, that no household lacked warmth or sustenance, and that each act of care was mirrored in the larger community. Through her subtle energy, she fostered continuity and stability, ensuring that domestic life remained a source of comfort and connection. In Olympus, the goddess moved through her own daily routine with equal attentiveness. She tended her hearth, arranged offerings, and observed the interactions of her immortal family. Zeus convened councils, Poseidon wandered the shores, and Demeter cared for the growth of the earth. Hestia's calm presence maintained a rhythm within the palace, smoothing tensions and fostering harmony through the quiet energy she radiated. Even Hades, who rarely engaged at the world above, felt the steady pulse of her influence, a reminder of balance and care. As midday approached, Hestia turned her attention again to the mortal world. She noticed a mother guiding her children in the preparation of food, each movement slow and deliberate. The children's small hands added herbs to the cooking pot, their fingers brushing against the warmth of the fire. Hestia's presence reinforced patience and attentiveness, ensuring that no movement was hurried, no task overlooked. The mundane acts of daily life became sacred in her guidance, imbued with a sense of care and purpose that mirrored the rituals she inspired in temples. The afternoon brought a gentle hum of activity. Villagers tended gardens, repaired homes, and prepared meals, all centered around the hearth. Hestia guided these actions subtly, ensuring that each fire burned steadily, each meal was prepared with attention, and each household experienced the quiet comfort of continuity. She felt a profound sense of satisfaction in witnessing the interconnectedness of mortal life. The way domestic routines reflected the rhythm of her own eternal flame. Evenings were a time of reflection and shared warmth. Families gathered around their hearths, telling stories, sharing bread and water, and finding comfort in each other's presence. Hestia's subtle influence encouraged patience and attentiveness, reinforcing the bonds that made life secure and harmonious. The glow of the fire illuminated the faces of parents and children alike, highlighting the gentle intimacy of domestic life. Hestia could sense the relief and comfort that came from these quiet moments, the sense of being grounded, connected, and cared for. As night descended, Hestia returned her focus to Olympus. She tended her eternal hearth, arranging small offerings of bread, oil, and herbs, and ensuring the flames remained steady through the hours of darkness. She allowed her thoughts to drift to the mortal world, sensing the countless hearths glowing in quiet reverence. Each flame reflected her influence, a testament to the stability, warmth, and care she had instilled. The palace grew still, the gods engaged in their respective duties, and the mortal world below settled into the soft rhythm of night. Hestia rested beside her hearth, hands brushing the warm stones, letting the steady heat surround her. She imagined the families she had guided, children asleep, parents tending fires one last time, the comfort of domestic life flowing gently through every home. Each flame was a quiet reassurance that care and continuity could endure across generations. And in that quiet night, Hestia allowed herself a moment of wonder at the beauty of such simple rhythms, the preparation of food, the tending of fire, the sharing of warmth and attention. Though her work was subtle, unseen, and uncelebrated by most, it carried profound meaning. The goddess of the hearth had woven stability and comfort into both mortal and divine life, a gentle presence that nurtured connection, harmony, and enduring warmth. Tomorrow she would rise again, tending her eternal fire and guiding mortal hearts with the same patient care. And in that quiet, steady presence, Hestia found fulfillment. Her eternal purpose reflected in the rhythm of domestic life, in the glow of countless hearths, and in the comfort and continuity of families she inspired. The dawn on Olympus arrived like a soft brush of gold across the marble pinnacles, and Hestia stirred quietly, her hands reaching instinctively for the eternal fire. The hearth responded to her touch, flames stretching upward in a gentle dance, warm and steady. She knelt for a moment, letting the familiar heat seep into her palms and arms, her mind drifting downward to the mortal world below. Today, her attention focused not on individual homes, but on larger spaces where communities gathered, where shared fires became centers of harmony and connection. Villages and towns were coming alive with activity. Mortals were preparing for gatherings that celebrated both the hearth and the bonds between neighbors. Hestia could sense the subtle anticipation in the air, the careful stacking of firewood, the cleaning of communal spaces, the arrangement of offerings near larger hearths meant for many. The scent of herbs and fresh bread drifted faintly on the morning breeze, mingling with the soft crackle of flames as fires were lit. Hestia allowed her attention to flow into each spark, guiding them to burn steadily, to offer warmth, light, and comfort to all who gathered. In a small central square, a group of villagers assembled around a communal hearth, their hands full of bread, grains, and small jars of oil. Hestia's presence encouraged careful, deliberate movements, the placement of offerings arranged thoughtfully, each gesture an act of devotion and attention. Children carried kindling, laughing softly as their small hands brushed against the warmth of the flames. Elders watched over the fire with pride, ensuring that the light would remain steady as the day progressed. The goddess's subtle guidance kept each ember alive, sustaining the gentle rhythm of communal care. Hestia observed the interactions with quiet delight. Families who might not usually see one another were drawn together, sharing meals and stories around the shared fire. Conversations flowed softly, punctuated by laughter and gentle acknowledgments. Even minor disagreements were tempered by the calming presence of the hearth, the warmth and light acting as an invisible mediator. Hestia's influence was subtle but profound, reinforcing patience, attentiveness, and mutual respect, ensuring that each gathering became a space of harmony and connection. The goddess drifted invisibly through the crowd, sensing the small gestures that revealed care and devotion. A young woman added a small sprig of thyme to the hearth, a silent offering that was mirrored in Hestia's own eternal fire. A man arranged a fresh loaf of bread near the flames, his hand steady despite the chill of morning air. Each movement, each act of attention, resonated with the goddess's presence, creating a network of warmth and care that extended far beyond the visible space of the gathering. In Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal hearth with the same precision and calm. She arranged bowls of water, herbs, and small offerings, ensuring that the fire remained steady and welcoming. Her siblings moved through their daily routines, occasionally glancing toward her hearth, feeling the stabilizing energy she radiated. Zeus felt the continuity of order reinforced by her presence. Poseidon sensed calm waves flowing from her influence into the seas. Demeter noted the harmonious balance that mirrored the cycles of growth and sustenance she oversaw. Even Hades, from his distant halls, felt the subtle tether of warmth and care she provided. The mortal gatherings continued through midday. Villagers worked together to prepare shared meals, tend the fire, and maintain the sacred space. Hestia's energy guided the collective attention, ensuring that every action contributed to the continuity and harmony of the event. Children learned the rhythm of care, the attentiveness required to tend the fire, and the gentle coordination needed to maintain a communal space. Elders reinforced traditions, sharing stories and guidance, their words enhanced by the calm energy flowing from the hearth. As afternoon stretched into evening, the flames glowed steadily, casting soft light over the gathering. Hestia sensed the deep satisfaction of the mortals, the comfort and reassurance that came from shared attention and care. Families and neighbors lingered near the fire, their conversations slow and gentle, their movements deliberate. The collective rhythm of the hearth created a sense of stability and continuity, a reminder that care extended beyond the home, that warmth and attention could bind communities together. Returning her focus to Olympus, Hestia arranged her own hearth for the night. She added small offerings, ensured the flames burned steadily, and let her attention drift to the countless mortal hearths she had guided that day. Each flame was a reflection of her influence, a testament to the quiet power of attentiveness, care, and constancy. Her heart swelled with a gentle satisfaction at the knowledge that even in public gatherings, her presence nurtured harmony, connection, and shared warmth. Night fell softly over Olympus and the mortal world below. Stars shimmered faintly above the mountaintops, and fires glimmered in countless homes and communal spaces. Hestia rested beside her eternal hearth, hands brushing the warm stones, feeling the steady pulse of the fire beneath her fingers. She imagined the villagers returning home, carrying the memory of shared care and warmth with them, the rhythm of attention echoing in their hearts. And in that quiet night, Hestia allowed herself a moment of reflection. Her influence, though subtle and often unseen, reached across realms, guiding both individual households and entire communities. Through her eternal flame and the mortal hearth she nurtured, she wove a network of stability, comfort, and enduring connection. Tomorrow, she would rise again to continue her work, tending the eternal fire, guiding mortal hearts, and nurturing the bonds that link the divine and human worlds. As the night deepened, Hestia rested peacefully. The fires glowed steadily, reflecting the gentle constancy of the goddess who tended them. In each flicker, each ember, she saw the enduring promise of warmth, care, and connection, a promise that would extend across generations, carrying her quiet presence into every home, every family, and every shared space. The morning on Olympus unfolded with a quiet, golden light, brushing over marble pillars and the curling smoke of Hestia's eternal hearth. She approached it with gentle movements, hands brushing the warm stones as she tended the flames. The fire responded immediately, dancing lightly in recognition of her presence, a subtle reminder of the continuity she maintained day after day. Hestia paused for a moment, breathing in the faint aroma of herbs and the lingering warmth of the night, and allowed her thoughts to wander once again to the mortal world below. The seasons were changing. Spring's tender greenery spread across the valleys, the soil soft and ready for growth. Hestia sensed the mortals preparing their hearths for longer days and cooler nights, their routines shifting gently with the rhythm of nature. Families brought early blooms and fresh herbs to their fires, arranging them thoughtfully beside bread and small offerings. Hestia guided each flame carefully, ensuring that the warmth of the hearth harmonized with the renewing energy of the season. The fires themselves seemed to respond to the shift, flickering with a soft vitality that mirrored the new life sprouting in the fields and gardens. In small villages, children ran lightly across dew-kissed grass, gathering twigs and sprigs of fragrant herbs for the hearths. Mothers and fathers moved with careful purpose, balancing the preparation of meals with the tending of fire. Hestia felt the quiet rhythm of their routines, the way each action built upon the last, creating harmony within households and the larger community. The hearth, she knew, was not simply a place of warmth. It was a center of life, grounding mortal families as the world around them changed and flourished. The goddess's attention shifted to the larger patterns of seasonal change. She observed the festivals tied to planting and growth, the ceremonies in which communities came together to honor the cycles of the earth. Hestia's influence was subtle, guiding each fire to burn steadily, ensuring that offerings were placed with care, and encouraging mortals to approach these rituals with patience and reverence. The hearths glowed as if an acknowledgement, reflecting the same constancy and nurturing energy that Hestia maintained in Olympus. In Olympus, Hestia tended her own hearth with the same rhythm. Her fingers brushed over the stones, adding small bowls of water and offerings of herbs, ensuring that the flames remained steady. Her siblings moved through their daily routines, but Hestia's calm presence radiated through the palace, smoothing the edges of their interactions. Zeus felt the stabilizing energy that reinforced the order of the day. Poseidon sensed the calm waves reflected in coastal settlements. Demeter noted the alignment between mortal rituals and the cycles of the earth. Even Hades, in his distant halls, felt the subtle pull of her influence, a reminder that warmth, continuity, and care reached all corners of existence. As spring moved towards summer, Hestia observed the adjustments in mortal life. Longer days meant later meals and extended hours of activity, yet the hearth remained a constant. Children still gathered twigs for the fire, families still brought offerings of bread and oil, and elders maintained the flames with careful hands. Hestia guided each ember, reinforcing the rhythm of domestic and communal life. In her quiet presence, mortals learned the value of attentiveness and patience, the gentle lessons of tending life's small but essential details. The goddess noticed that the seasonal festivals grew in richness. Summer gatherings included more elaborate offerings, subtly reflecting the abundance of the earth. Villagers approached the hearths with reverence, singing softly or sharing stories as they added herbs and grains. Hestia's presence ensured that each flame burned steadily, anchoring the celebrations with warmth and stability. Even in the excitement of communal festivities, her influence maintained calm, reminding mortals that attention and care were as important as joy and celebration. Autumn brought a new rhythm. The harvest ripened, and the mortal hearths became places of gratitude. Families brought the fruits of their labor to the fires, arranging them carefully as offerings to honor both the hearth and the cycle of the seasons. Hestia guided their hands, ensuring that the flames absorbed the care and attention placed before them, and that each household felt the comfort and continuity of the ritual. The fire mirrored the colors of autumn leaves, flickering with a gentle warmth that harmonized with the turning world. Winter arrived with a quiet hush. Snow blanketed the valleys, winds whispered through trees, and the hearth became the center of survival and comfort. Hestia ensured that each fire burned steadily through the longest nights, her influence reinforcing the importance of warmth and attentiveness. Families huddled together around the flames, sharing meals and stories, finding reassurance in the steady glow. Hestia's presence was especially vital in these months, her guidance ensuring that even in the harshest conditions, mortals experienced care, continuity, and security. Throughout the year, Hestia's attention moved seamlessly between Olympus and the mortal world. Her eternal hearth glowed steadily, reflecting the rhythm of the seasons and the lives of those she nurtured. She watched as families adapted, celebrated, and endured, presence providing continuity and comfort through the changing cycles of nature. Each flame, whether in palace halls or humble villages, was a testament to her quiet influence, a reminder that constancy and care were as enduring as the turning of the earth. As night fell over Olympus, Hestia arranged her hearth for the hours of darkness. Bowls of water, herbs, and offerings rested beside the flames, which flickered gently in the stillness. She let her thoughts drift to the mortal hearth she had guided that day, sensing the warmth of countless families and communities settled in the quiet rhythm of domestic life. Each fire reflected the constancy she maintained, each flicker a connection between the mortal and the divine. Hestia rested beside her hearth, hands brushing the warm stones, feeling the pulse of the eternal flame. She imagined the seasons unfolding in endless cycles, mortals and gods alike moving through the gentle rhythm of life. Her presence remained steady, anchoring homes, communities, and celebrations with warmth, care, and quiet attention. And so, as the stars appeared over the mountaintops, and the mortal world glimmered softly with the light of countless hearths, Hestia rested. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, guidance, and enduring constancy through the cycles of life and the passing of time. In that quiet night, the goddess of the hearth allowed herself to feel profound satisfaction in the knowledge that her care and attention, though subtle, touched every moment of mortal life, across every season and in every heart. The morning light on Olympus was soft and golden, spilling across the palace halls and illuminating the curling smoke from Hestia's eternal hearth. She moved with quiet grace, tending the fire as she always did, hands brushing the warm stones and letting the gentle heat seep into her fingers. Each flicker responded to her attention, rising steadily as though acknowledging her presence. Hestia paused for a moment, inhaling the subtle fragrance of burning herbs, and allowed her thoughts to wander, not downward to mortal homes this time, but toward the lives of her fellow Olympians. Though Hestia rarely sought attention or grandeur, she was deeply aware of the rhythms and needs of the other gods. Her quiet presence often provided a stabilizing anchor for them, even when they were absorbed in their own concerns. Zeus, the king of the gods, carried the weight of leadership with a restless energy, and Hestia's hearth radiated a subtle calm that reminded him of steadiness and patience. Poseidon, wandering the seas or attending to his domains, often felt the gentle pull of her influence in moments of turbulence. Even Demeter, attuned to growth and sustenance, occasionally sought the quiet grounding her presence offered. Hestia moved through the palace with quiet awareness, observing her siblings as they attended to their daily routines. Athena's thoughtful movements were deliberate and measured, but even she paused by the hearth to feel the warmth and reassurance Hestia radiated. Apollo, strumming softly on his lyre in a distant hall, seemed to draw inspiration from the steady light, his melodies flowing more smoothly when the hearth burned brightly. Hermes, ever fleet-footed and lively, slowed for a moment, resting near the hearth with a soft smile as the warmth touched him. Hestia felt a profound satisfaction in these small interactions. She did not seek to dominate or control. Her influence was gentle, a quiet stabilizing force that allowed each god to flourish in their own way. Her hearth anchored Olympus itself, the center of continuity and balance amid the energy, ambition, and passions of the divine. She understood the importance of presence, of attention, and of care, and she applied it equally to her immortal family as she did to mortal homes below. As morning gave way to midday, Hestia continued her quiet observation. She noticed subtle tensions beginning to emerge, small disagreements over duties, questions of authority, and differing opinions about the world beyond Olympus. Hestia approached the hearth with steady hands, tending the flames carefully, and allowed her influence to flow outward. Slowly, the room seemed to settle, the energy softening, tensions easing. The gods, whether consciously aware or not, felt a sense of patience and perspective, the warmth of the hearth acting as a gentle guide. Hestia occasionally interacted with her siblings more directly. She spoke softly to Demeter about the cycles of harvest, offering suggestions in a calm, measured tone that encouraged reflection rather than debate. With Poseidon, she shared a quiet smile as he returned from the seas, helping him settle the restless energy of the waves he carried with him. Even Zeus, whose mind was always occupied with rulership, found moments of serenity when he paused by her hearth, resting his hands near the warm stones, breathing deeply in the gentle heat. The goddess also observed the interactions among the gods themselves. Conflicts sometimes arose, but Hestia's presence served as a reminder of balance and continuity. Her steady calm encouraged compromise, reflection, and understanding. Mortals might rely on offerings and attention to their hearths, but the gods, too, found a rhythm in the quiet warmth she provided. Her influence did not intervene forcibly. Instead, it guided gently, like a whisper of reason, a soft pulse of reassurance amidst the grandeur and complexity of divine life. As afternoon approached, Hestia reflected on the connection she fostered, both among the gods and between Olympus and the mortal world. She understood that the hearth was a center not only for warmth but for harmony, attention, and continuity. Every flicker of flame, every gesture of care, reinforced the delicate balance that allowed both gods and mortals to thrive. Hestia took comfort in knowing that her work, though often unseen and uncelebrated, was essential to the smooth rhythm of existence itself. By evening, the palace quieted. Gods pursued their respective tasks or rested near the fires Hestia nurtured, and the eternal hearth glowed steadily, reflecting the calm energy she maintained. Hestia added small offerings of herbs, water, and bread to the flames, ensuring that the fire would remain constant through the hours of darkness. She allowed herself to observe her siblings from a gentle distance, sensing the subtle peace that had settled over Olympus. As night descended, Hestia knelt beside the hearth, letting the warmth radiate through her body, fingers tracing the smooth stones. She imagined mortal families below, resting near their own hearths, the rhythm of daily life echoing across both realms. Each flame reflected her influence, a testament to the quiet, enduring care she provided. She rested her hands gently on the stones and let her mind drift, thinking of her siblings, of mortal lives, and of the countless flames she guided with patience and attention. In that quiet night, Hestia felt profound contentment. Her presence, though subtle, wove harmony among gods and mortals alike. She understood that the hearth, both literal and metaphorical, was a center of life, stability, and connection. And as stars shimmered over Olympus and mortal homes glimmered in the distance, Hestia rested, assured that her work, quiet, patient, and constant, was a foundation for the rhythms of existence, sustaining warmth, care, and continuity through both divine and mortal life. Morning light drifted slowly across Olympus, brushing the marble pillars and spilling over the curling smoke of Hestia's eternal hearth. She moved quietly to her familiar place beside the flames, hands brushing the warm stones, feeling their steady pulse beneath her fingertips. The fire responded immediately, flickering gently in recognition, steady yet lively. Hestia inhaled the faint aroma of herbs and the subtle warmth of the morning, and her thoughts turned downward to the mortal world below, to the small shifts and transitions that marked daily life. Even in simple households, change was constant. Children grew taller, meals became more complex, routines evolved with the seasons, and families moved through moments of joy, learning, and adjustment. Hestia felt the rhythm of these changes in each hearth she guided. Sometimes the shifts were subtle, a child's first attempt at helping with a fire, a new neighbor arriving in the village, or a family adjusting to the changing seasons. Other times, they were more pronounced, a household welcoming a new member, or facing the quiet challenges of illness or absence. Hestia's influence in these moments was always gentle, unobtrusive, yet deeply reassuring. She guided the flames to burn steadily, ensuring warmth persisted even when routines faltered. She encouraged careful attentiveness in mortals, allowing hands to move deliberately, actions to unfold patiently, and hearts to adapt gradually to new circumstances. Her presence was a quiet reminder that, though the world shifted, the hearth could remain constant, the center of stability and comfort. In a small cottage nestled among rolling hills, Hestia observed a family adjusting to the arrival of a newborn. The mother moved carefully around the hearth, her hands tending the flames and preparing meals, while the father learned to balance his tasks with gentle attention. The older children curiously approached the fire, their small hands brushing the warmth, learning how to contribute without disruption. Hestia guided the flames so that each ember radiated calm, reflecting the adjustments each family member made. The hearth became a stabilizing force, anchoring the household through its subtle, steady warmth. Elsewhere, in a coastal village, a family faced the absence of a parent temporarily journeying across the seas. Hestia extended her presence to each hearth, ensuring that warmth remained steady and rituals were maintained. She inspired patience and attentiveness, guiding children to help with meals and encouraging adults to find solace in the ritual of tending the fire. Even across distances, the hearth's glow reminded each family member of continuity, of care, and of the reassurance that life's small rhythms could endure despite temporary change. Hestia's influence extended to larger communities as well. Markets shifted with seasonal goods, festivals moved with a calendar, and neighbors adjusted to the ebb and flow of daily life. She moved invisibly among the mortal flames, subtly guiding each fire to maintain its warmth, fostering attentiveness, patience, and care in every action. Shared spaces, like communal hearths and temples, remained calm and harmonious, echoing the steady rhythm she maintained in her own eternal fire. In Olympus, Hestia tended her hearth with the same quiet attentiveness. She arranged bowls of water, herbs, and small offerings, ensuring that the fire glowed steadily through the day. Her siblings passed nearby, some pausing to rest for a moment by the warmth. Zeus felt the stabilizing energy, Poseidon sensed calm tides in the seas he ruled, and Demeter reflected on the continuity that nourished both earth and mortal lives. Even Hades, distant and often removed, felt the subtle presence of steady care radiating through the palace. Afternoon shadows stretched across the palace floor, and Hestia's mind returned to the mortal world. She noticed the delicate ways in which humans navigated change, a young woman learning new skills in her household, a father adjusting his schedule to accommodate growing responsibilities, neighbors assisting one another in times of need. Each small act of attentiveness was reinforced by her subtle guidance. The hearths reflected patience, focus, and continuity, reminding all who gathered near them that even in the midst of change, stability and warmth could endure. As evening approached, families prepared meals and settled near their hearths. Children laughed softly, sharing stories of their day, while parents worked with gentle care to ensure that the flames remained steady. Hestia moved invisibly among them, encouraging calm, attentiveness, and comfort. She allowed the rhythm of domestic life to unfold naturally, interweaving her presence with the ordinary acts of care that sustain homes and communities alike. The night descended softly over the valleys and hills, painting the sky in deep purples and blues. Hestia returned her focus to Olympus, tending her eternal hearth with practiced hands. The flames rose and fell with a gentle pulse, steady yet lively, reflecting the countless mortal hearths she had guided through change that day. She rested beside the fire, hands brushing the warm stones, sensing the quiet contentment of lives touched by her presence. In the stillness of the night, Hestia allowed herself a moment of reflection. Life was a series of transitions, small and large, and the hearth was a center of reassurance, patience, and continuity. Her quiet work, the tending of flames, the guidance of mortal hands, the subtle harmonizing of attention, carried profound meaning. Through her influence, households, communities, and even the halls of Olympus remained grounded, connected, and nurtured through change. And so, as stars glittered above Olympus, and the mortal world glimmered with the soft light of countless fires, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended, and the flame she inspired in countless homes, glowed steadily, a promise of warmth, care, and enduring constancy for all who relied on it. In that quiet night, the goddess of the hearth felt satisfaction and serenity, knowing that through gentle attention and steady presence, change could be met with calm, comfort, and continuity. The morning sun filtered gently across Olympus, illuminating the eternal hearth with soft, golden light. Hestia approached as she always did, her hands brushing the warm stones, feeling the familiar pulse of steady flame. Each flicker responded to her care, rising and falling with the gentle rhythm of her attention. Today, her thoughts were drawn once more to the mortal world, to the moments in which the hearth served not only as a center of daily life, but as the heart of new beginnings, marriages, unions, and the formation of families. In a quiet village nestled along a gentle river, preparations were underway for a wedding. The bride and groom moved carefully around the home's hearth, arranging small offerings of bread, oil, and herbs. Hestia's presence guided their hands, encouraging care, mindfulness, and a sense of sacredness in each gesture. The fire flickered steadily, reflecting the warmth and attention flowing through the household. It was a symbol not only of home, but of continuity, stability, and the gentle nurturing that would accompany their union. Hestia observed the families gathered for the celebration. Parents and elders added their own offerings, passing down wisdom through simple actions and quiet words. Children watched attentively, learning the rhythms of care, patience, and attention. The hearth became a focal point for the ceremony, its flames radiating calm and warmth as the mortals honored their new bond. Hestia's influence ensured that every action contributed to harmony, from the careful placement of offerings to the shared smiles and soft laughter that filled the room. In Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal fire with her usual quiet grace. The flames reflected her calm energy, steady and reassuring. Her siblings moved about the palace, some pausing to admire the warm glow, feeling the subtle influence she radiated. Zeus noted the order her presence brought. Poseidon sensed its echo in the tides, and Demeter reflected on how stability reinforced growth. Even Hades, observing from a distance, felt the quiet anchoring of her presence, a reminder of enduring care amid life's beginnings and transitions. Back in the village, the bride and groom approached the hearth together, hands intertwined. Hestia guided the fire to respond with gentle flickers, encouraging mindfulness and calm attention. Each step, each placement of an offering, became a ritual of connection. The warmth of the flames mirrored the warmth of their hearts, reinforcing a sense of partnership, responsibility, and care. In these small, deliberate gestures, the essence of Hestia's guidance was made tangible. The hearth is a center of life, love, and continuity. The festival continued through the day, villagers contributing to the shared celebration. Meals were prepared with care, flames tended attentively, and stories were shared softly around the communal fire. Hestia's presence ensured that all acts flowed smoothly, that laughter and conversation remained gentle, and that the energy of the gathering reinforced unity and harmony. Each family member, each friend, each participant experienced the quiet stability that the hearth symbolized. As the sun began its descent, the couple knelt beside the hearth, adding one final offering together. Hestia's attention wrapped around the flames, ensuring that the light burned steadily, anchoring their home and their union. She imagined the future, children playing near the fire, meals shared in warmth and comfort, celebrations of life unfolding around this center of devotion. The hearth would remain constant, a reminder of care, attentiveness, and the gentle bonds that tie hearts together. Evening settled softly over the village, painting the sky in deep purples and warm oranges. Hestia returned her focus to Olympus, tending her eternal fire with careful hands. Bowls of water, herbs, and small offerings were arranged around the hearth, ensuring it would burn steadily through the night. She allowed herself a moment of reflection, thinking of the countless mortal hearths she guided, each one a center of connection, care, and love. In the quiet of the night, Hestia sensed the newlyweds resting near their fire. Their hands brushed together absent-mindedly, smiles exchanged, hearts comforted by the steady warmth of the hearth. Children dreamed in nearby rooms, parents reflected on the day's ceremony, and the village rested in gentle harmony. Hestia's subtle guidance had woven care and attention into every moment, reinforcing continuity, stability, and love. The goddess knelt beside her own hearth in Olympus, hands tracing the warm stones. The fire pulsed steadily beneath her fingers, reflecting the same care and attention she had spread to mortal homes. She felt contentment, knowing that through her quiet presence, unions were nurtured, homes were anchored, and life's beginnings were celebrated with calm, steady devotion. And so, as stars emerged over Olympus and mortal homes glimmered softly with the glow of their hearths, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, care, and enduring constancy. In the quiet night, she felt a profound fulfillment, knowing that her influence nurtured the bonds that formed families, strengthened communities, and connected hearts, both mortal and divine. The morning light stretched gently over Olympus, soft and warm, spilling across marble pillars and reflecting in the curling smoke of Hestia's eternal hearth. She moved with her familiar, quiet grace, kneeling before the flames and letting the heat seep into her fingers. Each flicker of fire seemed to respond to her presence, steady and comforting, like a heartbeat connecting the palace to the mortal world below. Today, her attention drifted to the growth of families, the milestones that marked childhood, the subtle shifts in households, and the gentle rhythm of life unfolding around the hearth. In a small valley village, Hestia observed a mother guiding her children as they carried small bundles of wood to the fire. Their steps were careful and deliberate, laughter soft and harmonious with the crackle of the flames. The mother instructed gently, teaching them to tend the fire without haste, to respect its warmth and light. Hestia's presence encouraged patience and attentiveness, ensuring that each child learned the rhythm of care. The hearth became a center of education as much as warmth, a place where life's lessons were mirrored in the gentle glow of the flames. The goddess drifted from house to house, sensing the subtle transitions that marked growth. A father watched as his eldest child learned to knead dough, guiding small hands with calm instruction while the fire radiated steady warmth. Elsewhere, a young girl attempted to light a candle on her own, and Hestia's influence ensured that the flame rose gently, steady, and secure, reflecting the patience and care she instilled. Each small success, each lesson learned, was reinforced by the steady glow of a hearth, which mirrored the continuity and stability of her guidance. In Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal fire with the same devotion. Her hands brushed the warm stones, arranging small bowls of water and offerings, ensuring the flames remained constant throughout the day. Her siblings moved about the palace, occasionally pausing near the hearth to feel the calm energy she radiated. Zeus sensed balance in his thoughts. Poseidon felt the echo of calm waves, and Demeter noted the quiet steadiness that reinforced growth. Even Hades, distant and rarely seen, felt the subtle pulse of her influence, a reminder that warmth, care, and attention were present even in moments of change. Hestia watched as mortal families navigated the milestones of life. Children learned to cook, to carry water, to contribute to meals, and to participate in the rituals of daily attention. Each step was guided subtly by the goddess's influence, ensuring that the learning process was gentle, deliberate, and harmonious. The hearth served as a teacher, a witness, and a stabilizing presence, providing reassurance and continuity as new skills and responsibilities were acquired. The afternoon brought gatherings of extended families, friends, and neighbors. Hestia's presence ensured that communal fires burned steadily, offering warmth and light to all who approached. Stories were shared near the flames, passing wisdom from elders to the younger generation. Laughter was tempered with attentiveness, creating an atmosphere of calm learning and gentle reflection. Children observed and absorbed, their hearts and minds attuned to the rhythm of care and continuity flowing from the hearth. In one home, a young boy carefully placed a sprig of rosemary into the fire as an offering, guided by his mother's instructions. Hestia ensured the flame received the gesture without disruption, flickering warmly in response. The boy's eyes widened with quiet wonder, a subtle sense of accomplishment and connection to something greater than himself. Across the village, similar moments unfolded in countless homes, each flame reflecting the same attentive, nurturing energy. As evening approached, families settled near their fires, sharing meals, stories, and quiet laughter. Hestia drifted invisibly among them, guiding hands and hearts, ensuring that the warmth of the flames reinforced connection and continuity. Parents rested for a moment, children played softly, and the household moved in a gentle rhythm shaped by care and attentiveness. The hearth was the anchor of daily life, a center of learning, growth, and comfort, its steady glow reflecting the goddess's quiet influence. The night deepened, and Hestia returned her focus to Olympus. She tended her eternal fire, arranging offerings and letting the flames pulse steadily in the stillness. She allowed herself to reflect on the countless mortal hearths she guided, imagining the children who had learned patience, attentiveness, and care that day. Each flame carried a small, enduring lesson, a reflection of Hestia's presence and the quiet continuity she provided. In the hush of the night, Hestia knelt beside her hearth, hands brushing the warm stones. She imagined the young families resting near their fires, the children dreaming softly, and the parents reflecting on the day's moments. The flame glowed steadily, a beacon of growth, connection, and stability. Hestia allowed herself a quiet smile, knowing that through her gentle attention, the rhythm of life continued harmoniously. And so, as stars shimmered over Olympus and mortal hearths glimmered softly below, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended reflected her promise of warmth, care, and enduring constancy. Through her guidance, children learned, families grew, and communities thrived, all anchored in the gentle, steady rhythm of the hearth. In that quiet night, the goddess of the hearth felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her presence nurtured life's growth with patience, love, and unwavering attention. The first light of morning spilled gently over Olympus, casting long, soft shadows across the palace halls. Hestia rose quietly and moved toward her eternal hearth, her hands brushing the warm stones, feeling the steady pulse beneath her fingers. The flames responded with gentle flickers, as if greeting her presence, and she paused for a moment, breathing in the faint scent of herbs lingering from the previous night. Today, her thoughts turned to the mortal world, to the homes and families she watched over, and to the subtle ways in which her influence offered protection, reassurance, and care. Even in quiet villages, life brought occasional disturbances. A sudden wind might scatter kindling near a hearth, a pot might boil over unexpectedly, or small disagreements could ripple through the household. Hestia moved her attention with gentle precision, guiding flames to burn steadily, encouraging hands to move deliberately, and ensuring that minor mishaps were met with patience rather than frustration. The hearth itself became a guardian, radiating warmth and calm, creating a space where difficulties were softened by steady attention. In a small village nestled along a riverbank, a family's heart flickered nervously as a sudden gust of wind blew through an open window. Hestia's presence settled the flames, encouraging them to rise steadily once more. The mother paused, sensing the calm warmth, and adjusted the pot on the fire, her movements slow and careful. The children watched, hands outstretched, learning how to approach the flames safely. Hestia's guidance was invisible yet tangible. The hearth radiated reassurance, reinforcing attentiveness and patience while softening the sudden shock of the moment. Elsewhere, a father tending a larger communal fire noticed the kindling beginning to shift. The flames wavered slightly, reflecting the risk of imbalance, and Hestia extended her influence to steady the blaze. Hands moved confidently as the father readjusted the wood, while children observed the careful rhythm of the fire. The hearth became more than a source of warmth. It became a teacher, a silent guide that encouraged safety, mindfulness, and responsibility in times of minor crises. Hestia's influence also extended to subtle emotional protection. Families navigating moments of tension, whether a sibling quarrel or a parent's worry over tasks unfinished, found calm flowing from the hearth. She guided the energy of the room, helping hearts settle and minds focus. Laughter returned more easily after small disagreements, and concentration returned to meals, cleaning, and other routines. The fire's steady warmth reflected this invisible care, reinforcing the sense that the home itself was a sanctuary, a safe place anchored by Hestia's presence. In Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal fire with deliberate care. She added small offerings of herbs, water, and bread, ensuring that the flames would continue to burn steadily through the day. Her siblings moved past her quietly, some pausing to rest for a moment by the warmth, each feeling the calm energy she radiated. Zeus sensed balance restored, Poseidon felt a subtle easing in the currents of the seas, and Demeter recognized the harmony that reinforced growth and sustenance. Even Hades, distant in his halls, perceived a trace of reassurance emanating from a hearth. Back in a mortal world, Hestia guided homes through more delicate moments. A young girl dropped a small candle near the hearth, her hands trembling with fear. Hestia's influence steadied the flame, allowing her to lift it safely. The warmth radiating from the fire reminded her of care, stability, and calm attention, turning a frightening moment into a lesson in mindfulness. Across villages, similar events unfolded: spilled meal, a startled animal, or sudden storm. In every instance, Hestia's subtle presence reinforced continuity, patience, and care. Evening arrived with long, soft shadows stretching across the valleys. Families gathered near their hearths, sharing meals and soft conversation, while Hestia's invisible guidance ensured that the flames burned steadily. Minor accidents became opportunities for instruction. Moments of tension were softened by warmth, and homes became sanctuaries where care and attentiveness were reinforced. The hearth radiated stability, comfort, and quiet reassurance, embodying Hestia's presence in every flicker and glow. Night deepened, and Hestia returned to her eternal hearth in Olympus. She knelt beside the warm stones, hands brushing them gently, sensing the countless mortal fires she had guided. Each flame reflected steadiness, care, and quiet protection. She allowed herself to reflect on the importance of her work. Through her subtle attention, homes were anchored, families were soothed, and life's minor challenges were met with calm and continuity. As stars glimmered over Olympus and the mortal world below, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, care, and enduring presence. In the quiet night, the goddess of the hearth felt contentment, knowing that her guidance protected not only homes but hearts, turning moments of uncertainty into lessons of mindfulness, patience, and calm. Her influence was subtle, yet profound, a quiet, enduring reassurance that no home, no family, no hearth would ever burn without her careful attention. The first light of morning spread softly over Olympus, spilling across marble halls and illuminating the steady glow of Hestia's eternal hearth. She approached it with quiet grace, hands brushing the warm stones as she felt the familiar pulse beneath her fingers. The flames flickered gently, alive yet calm, as if welcoming her presence. Today, her attention turned to the sacred rituals of both mortals and gods, the ceremonies that honor the hearth and reinforce the bonds between families, communities, and the divine. In villages across the valleys, mortals prepared for simple daily offerings. A mother carefully placed a small loaf of bread near the hearth, while children carried fresh herbs and grains in tiny bowls. Hestia's presence guided their movements, ensuring each gesture was deliberate, each placement thoughtful. The fire seemed to respond to their attention, rising steadily as if acknowledging the devotion behind every act. Even small offerings, a sprig of thyme, a drop of oil, held meaning in her eyes, a reflection of care, attentiveness, and respect for the rhythm of daily life. In larger communal spaces, Hestia's influence extended to shared rituals. Villagers gathered to honor the changing seasons, to mark the passage of time, or to give thanks for harvests. Communal hearths glowed warmly, their flames tended carefully by many hands under Hestia's invisible guidance. Each movement, the placement of food, the careful tending of fire, the soft words of thanks, was harmonized by her presence. The hearth became a center of focus and attention, radiating calm and reinforcing bonds between neighbors, families, and the divine. Hestia observed the subtleties of these rituals. Children learned through observation, their eyes following the careful gestures of elders, understanding through repetition and attentiveness. Elders, in turn, reinforced tradition, their movements confident and deliberate. Hestia's guidance ensured that these sacred moments remained unhurried, harmonious, and soothing. Each flicker of flame mirrored the flow of intention, patience, and care present in the hearts of mortals. Even in Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal hearth with meticulous care. She arranged bowls of water, herbs, and small offerings, ensuring the flames burned steadily through the day. Her siblings occasionally paused nearby, drawn to the warmth and calm she radiated. Zeus felt a stabilizing energy in his thoughts. Poseidon sensed a softening in the waves he oversaw, and Demeter recognized the quiet rhythm that reinforced growth and sustenance. Even Hades, observing from afar, felt the subtle, grounding influence of her presence. The goddess guided mortals through larger ceremonies as well. Festivals celebrating life, harvest, and renewal unfolded with gentle energy under her influence. Families and neighbors moved gracefully around the flames, offering food, singing softly, and sharing stories. Hestia's presence encouraged harmony, reinforcing attentiveness, patience, and mutual respect. The hearth was not only a source of warmth but a focal point of sacred continuity, grounding both communal and domestic life in the rhythm of care and devotion. In one village, a young couple approached the hearth together, carrying a small dish of grains as an offering. Hestia guided the flame to rise steadily, reflecting their shared attention and intention. Their hands moved carefully, placing the offering with reverence, and the fire seemed to acknowledge their respect. Children and elders alike observed, learning the rhythm and subtlety of care that these rituals required. The moment, small yet profound, reinforced continuity and nurtured a sense of stability in both family and community. As the afternoon deepened, mortals returned to their hearths, tending meals and daily chores while maintaining the quiet rhythm of offerings and attention. Hestia moved invisibly among them, subtly guiding the energy of homes and shared spaces. Small gestures, a careful stirring of soup, the placement of a fresh sprig of rosemary, the lighting of a candle, were imbued with significance, each one reflecting mindfulness, care, and a gentle reverence for life's daily routines. Evening fell softly, painting the valleys in shades of deep purple and gold. Hestia returned her focus to Olympus, tending her eternal fire with deliberate care. The flames glowed steadily, mirroring the countless mortal hearths she had guided through rituals that day. She knelt beside the fire, hands brushing the warm stones, and allowed herself to reflect on the importance of these sacred acts. Through careful attention and subtle guidance, she ensured that every hearth, whether in a simple home or a bustling village, remained a center of harmony, warmth, and continuity. In the quiet of night, Hestia imagined the mortals resting near their hearths, their hearts soothed by the calm presence that radiated from each flame. The rituals of the day, repeated with care and attention, reinforced connection and stability. Families, children, and communities felt the gentle rhythm of life carried through the warmth of the fire. Hestia's work, though often unseen, touched every heart, weaving constancy, mindfulness, and reassurance into daily existence. And so, as stars glimmered above Olympus and a mortal world below, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, care, and enduring presence. In the quiet night, the goddess of the hearth felt contentment, knowing that her subtle influence over rituals and offerings reinforced the bonds that anchored both mortal homes and the divine halls of Olympus. Through her calm, attentive presence, the hearth remained a center of life, connection, and gentle continuity. The morning light spilled softly over Olympus, gilding the marble halls and brushing the eternal hearth with a warm, gentle glow. Hestia moved quietly toward the fire, hands brushing the warm stones, feeling its steady pulse beneath her fingers. The flames responded in kind, flickering gently in acknowledgement. Today, her thoughts were drawn to celebration, the moments of joy, festivity, and communal warmth that marked both mortal and divine life. She considered how these moments, though filled with laughter and excitement, relied on the steady presence of the hearth to anchor them in calm and care. In a small village nestled among rolling hills, preparations were underway for a festival celebrating the harvest. Families worked together, stringing garlands of flowers, arranging bowls of fresh fruits, and preparing loaves of bread and roasted grains near the hearth. Children ran lightly between homes, carrying herbs and tiny offerings, while elders instructed them on the proper placement of gifts and the importance of careful attention. Hestia's presence guided the hands of all, ensuring that the flames remained steady despite the bustle of preparation. Every flicker reflected harmony, patience, and gentle care. The aroma of roasting grains and simmering stews drifted through the air, mingling with the scent of herbs and fresh flowers. Hestia allowed her attention to extend to each hearth in the village, subtle yet persistent, ensuring that no fire faltered. She encouraged mortals to move deliberately, to speak softly, and to share in the rhythm of collective celebration. The warmth of the flames mirrored the warmth in their hearts, fostering unity, attentiveness, and joy in quiet, enduring ways. In another home, a family gathered to celebrate the birth of a new child. The mother cradled her infant near the hearth, its gentle glow reflecting softly on her face. Hestia guided the fire so that its warmth enveloped the family, calming the nervous energy that often accompanies new beginnings. The father added a small offering of bread to the flame, and the children watched in quiet wonder, their curiosity and excitement softened by the steady rhythm of the hearth. Each act of attention, each gesture of care, was infused with Hestia's subtle guidance, anchoring the household in reassurance and continuity. Across the village, communal fires blazed steadily as neighbors gathered to share in celebration. Stories were told, songs were sung softly, and laughter moved lightly through the air. Hestia's influence ensured that these gatherings remained harmonious, that excitement did not tip into chaos, and that every heart felt included in the shared warmth of the community. The hearth became a silent center of joy, radiating stability and care, its flames reflecting the gentle rhythms of human connection. Even in Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal hearth with careful devotion. She arranged bowls of water, herbs, and offerings around the flames, ensuring they remained constant and vibrant. Her siblings passed by, some pausing to rest near the warmth. Zeus felt balance in his thoughts. Poseidon sensed calm in the tides, and Demeter noted the quiet rhythm that reinforced growth and celebration alike. Even Hades, distant yet present, perceived the grounding reassurance that radiated from her hearth. As afternoon progressed, Hestia's attention turned to smaller, personal celebrations, milestones within families and households. A young boy's first successful attempt at cooking a simple meal, a daughter learning to knead bread for the hearth, a couple sharing quiet gratitude for the comfort of their home. All these moments were suffused with her quiet guidance. She encouraged mindfulness, patience, and attentiveness, ensuring that the joy of the moment was grounded in care and continuity. The festival in the village continued into the evening. Candles and small fires were lit across homes and communal spaces, soft music played, and families gathered to enjoy meals and companionship. Hestia's invisible presence guided every hand, every gesture, and every glance. The hearths burned steadily, reflecting the hearts of those who tended them. Even as excitement grew and laughter filled the air, calm underpinned the celebration, reinforcing the stability and reassurance the hearth provided. As stars appeared in the sky above, the mortals settled near their fires. Children lay quietly, lulled by warmth and gentle voices. Parents exchanged soft words and reflective smiles. Neighbors lingered in contentment, their hearts touched by the steady presence of the hearth. Hestia allowed herself to imagine the countless celebrations occurring across valleys, hills, and villages, each one anchored by her subtle guidance. Returning to Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal hearth with quiet devotion. The flames pulsed steadily, reflecting the joy and harmony she had nurtured in the mortal world. She knelt beside the warm stones, hands tracing the surface, feeling the connection between her influence and the countless moments of happiness and unity it had supported. The goddess felt profound contentment knowing that through her calm attention, celebrations were made more harmonious, hearts were soothed, and communities strengthened. In the hush of night, Hestia rested beside her hearth. The eternal flame glowed steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, care, and enduring presence. Across the world, mortal and divine, hearths glimmered softly, each one a beacon of joy grounded in patience and attention. Through quiet guidance, Hestia ensured that celebrations, whether large or small, remained moments of harmony, comfort, and gentle continuity. In that still night, the goddess of the hearth felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing her presence nurtured the warmth of countless homes, hearts, and communities alike. The first light of morning crept softly over Olympus, spilling pale gold across the palace halls and brushing the eternal hearth with its warmth. Hestia moved toward the fire with quiet grace, her hands brushing the smooth, warm stones. She could feel the gentle pulse beneath her fingers, the rhythm steady, comforting, as if the hearth itself were breathing in harmony with her. Today, she thought of the mortal world below, the homes that faced small hardships, the families who encountered subtle trials, and the way the hearth, though silent, offered guidance, stability, and reassurance in every challenge. In a small valley village, the first winds of autumn stirred the trees, shaking the last of their leaves into the golden fields below. Families moved with brisk attentiveness, gathering wood for the coming cold nights and securing homes against the chill. Hestia watched a mother carrying a heavy bundle of kindling into her modest kitchen. The fire inside flickered nervously as the door opened, disturbed by the cold gust. Hestia's subtle influence steadied the flames, and warmth spread evenly through the room. She guided the mother's hands, ensuring each log was placed carefully, the fire taking it in without sputter or smoke. The children in the household ran lightly about, carrying smaller sticks and pieces of dry brush. Their laughter rang in soft, high notes, interrupted occasionally by a stumble or a clumsy attempt to stack wood properly. Hestia's presence encouraged patience, not scolding or rush. She guided their small hands, lending steadiness to their movements. A little girl hesitated before placing a stick near the fire. The heat radiated toward her fingers, and her brow furrowed with uncertainty. Hestia's subtle warmth eased the fear in her chest. Slowly, deliberately, she set the stick down, and the fire welcomed it, rising in a steady, bright flicker. She smiled, and the mother's eyes softened with pride at the small, deliberate achievement. In the same village, a family faced a quieter, more delicate challenge. A father and mother tended to their youngest child, who lay quietly on a woven mat near the hearth, cheeks flushed from a lingering fever. Hestia's attention enveloped the room like a gentle breeze, the fire glowing steadily, radiating calm. The mother brought a bowl of broth to the fire's edge, stirring it slowly, while the father adjusted blankets, humming soft, careful notes. Hestia guided the flames so that warmth enveloped the child without scorching, comforting without overbearing. Every flicker, every gentle movement of the fire encouraged the family to move with patience and care, allowing love and attentiveness to fill the space. Outside, the autumn wind swirled through the fields, rattling the trees and carrying a faint scent of frost. Farmers worked briskly to gather the last of the harvest before the weather turned cold. Hestia extended her presence to their homes and communal hearths, ensuring that meals were prepared calmly despite the hurried pace. A woman stirred a large pot of grains, its steam curling upward into the crisp air. The fire beneath the pot glowed steadily, encouraging focus and precision. A child washed her mother's hands, then carefully stirred a small spoonful, learning through observation. The hearth taught resilience, attention, and patience, even in the face of pressing seasonal work. Hestia's guidance extended beyond the physical to the emotional. Minor frustrations and worries rippled through households, stacks of wood that refused to balance, pots that threatened to tip, children's small quarrels, but the hearth's warmth, steady and alive, calmed tensions. In one home, two siblings argued over who would light the fire that evening. Hestia's invisible presence eased their anger. The flames pulsed gently as if to say, "Move slowly, and all will be well." They each touched the kindling carefully, hesitating, then smiled at one another as the fire accepted both efforts equally. The mother watched silently, sensing the subtle harmony restore in the room, grateful for the hearth's gentle guidance. Even in Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal fire with meticulous devotion. She arranged bowls of water, herbs, and small offerings around the hearth, ensuring the flames burned steadily. Her siblings passed nearby, some pausing to rest near the warmth. Zeus felt a balance return to his thoughts. Poseidon noticed calm beneath the restless waves, and Demeter reflected on the quiet rhythm that reinforced growth and stability. Even Hades, often distant and reserved, seemed touched by the grounding reassurance emanating from her hearth. As afternoon deepened, Hestia's attention returned to households navigating subtler challenges. A young girl learned to carry water from the well, balancing the pail carefully. A sudden stumble sent droplets flying. The hearth's warmth radiated outward, steadying her nerves. She laughed softly, setting the pail upright, and continued, steadier now, guided by patience reinforced by the fire. In another home, a father adjusted the hearthstones after a small chimney draft threatened the warmth of the room. Hestia's guidance ensured his movements were deliberate, measured, and precise, turning a potential frustration into a mindful act of care. Twilight descended over the valleys, painting the trees and fields in deep purples and golds. Families gathered near their fires, sharing meals, laughter, and gentle conversation. Hestia's invisible presence ensured that minor conflicts softened, that the household's energy remained harmonious, and that warmth radiated in more than physical form. Even as fatigue settled on weary workers or concerned parents, the hearth became a center of calm. The fire's glow reflected reassurance, continuity, and the quiet strength that Hestia provided. Night deepened, stars appearing above in glittering constellations. Hestia returned to Olympus, tending her eternal hearth with slow, deliberate hands. The fire pulsed steadily, mirroring the countless mortal homes she had guided through the day's challenges. She knelt beside it, hands tracing the warm stones, reflecting on the resilience she had nurtured. Children learning patience, parents managing worry, households navigating seasonal pressures. Each hearth mirrored quiet fortitude, each flame a lesson in mindfulness, care, and attention. In the hush of night, Hestia imagined the village families resting near their hearths. The sick child slept more peacefully, farmers lay with hearts eased, and children dreamed quietly, strengthened by lessons of patience and attentiveness learned through minor challenges. Hestia allowed herself a gentle smile, knowing that her subtle guidance transformed uncertainty into comfort and minor trials into growth. The hearth had anchored them, radiating warmth, reassurance, and calm, ensuring that even in life's small hardships, families and homes were held firmly in a steady rhythm of care. And so, as the stars glittered above Olympus and mortal villages glimmered softly with the light of countless hearts, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, patience, and enduring presence. In the quiet night, the goddess of the heart felt fulfillment. Knowing her influence turned subtle challenges into lessons of care, attention, and gentle resilience. Through her steady guidance, homes, hearts, and communities found balance, comfort, and calm, even amidst the changing seasons and life's small trials. The morning light unfolded softly over Olympus, slipping between marble pillars and spilling across the eternal hearth. Hestia moved toward it with her familiar quiet grace, hands brushing the warm stones. The fire pulsed gently beneath her fingers, steady and alive, reflecting countless centuries of care. Today, her thoughts were drawn to the continuity of traditions, the ways in which the hearth connected generations, preserved memory, and quietly taught the values of patience, attentiveness, and unity. In a village nestled along a winding river, Families gathered to observe an age-old festival honoring the changing of seasons. Children carried fresh flowers and woven garlands, their small hands learning the intricate movements of ritual from the careful guidance of their parents. Hestia's presence flowed invisibly through every home, every hearth, ensuring that the flames burned steadily and that no task, however small, was performed without reverence and care. She guided hands as they laid offerings of bread, oil, and herbs upon the hearth, each placement a quiet echo of practices repeated for generations. The air was filled with soft scents, the warm aroma of baking bread, the subtle fragrance of rosemary and thyme, and the earthy perfume of freshly gathered firewood. Hestia allowed herself to notice the rhythms that emerged as families worked together, the measured steps of children carrying bundles of kindling, the careful stirring of soups over the fire, the hushed instructions of parents teaching rituals of attention. Every action was part of a chain, linking the present to the past and setting the stage for future generations. In one household, a grandmother guided her granddaughter in the careful lighting of the hearth for the festival. The girl's small fingers trembled slightly as she held a taper to the flame, and Hestia's influence steadied the fire, encouraging patience and confidence. Gently, the grandmother whispered, "Let the flame come to you. It is steady if your hands are steady." The girl watched the fire rise, mesmerized by its calm flicker. Hestia infused the moment with subtle warmth, allowing both mentor and child to feel the enduring presence of care that passed through every generation. Elsewhere, a young couple prepared their first festival since marriage. Nervous yet eager, they worked together, arranging small bowls of grains, fruits, and herbs around the hearth. Hestia guided the flame to respond to their attention, rising in a steady, welcoming glow. They exchanged shy smiles, hands brushing as they moved, learning together the rhythms of tradition. The hearth became a center of harmony, teaching them through quiet examples how patience, attentiveness, and cooperation were woven into domestic life. Even in Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal fire with careful devotion. She arranged offerings of water, grains, and small herbs around the hearth, ensuring that the flames burned steadily and warmly. Her siblings occasionally paused nearby, drawn to the gentle radiance, feeling its steady energy. Zeus noted balance and calm in his thoughts. Poseidon sensed the soft rhythm beneath the currents he oversaw, and Demeter reflected on how steady energy reinforced growth and nourishment. Even Hades, observing from afar, sensed the quiet consistency that Hestia's hearth radiated, a reminder that continuity endured even amidst change. The day moved on in the mortal world, families completing tasks, tending fires, and performing small rituals with care. A boy learned to carry water without spilling, carefully filling a pot at the hearth under the watchful guidance of his parents. A girl practiced kneading dough, fingers pressing and folding with deliberate movements. Hestia's presence ensured that these small acts of attention were meaningful, reinforcing the values of patience, mindfulness, and respect for the home. Every hearth became a living teacher, carrying forward lessons passed down through generations. As the sun began to descend, families gathered near the hearth for the evening ceremony. The flames danced steadily, reflecting the hearts and hands of those tending them. Songs were sung softly, stories told in hushed tones, and offerings were placed with reverence. Hestia allowed her attention to flow through every action, ensuring that each moment was harmonious, deliberate, and imbued with the quiet significance of tradition. Children listened, absorbed, and participated, learning that care, continuity, and respect for the hearth were essential to the rhythm of life. Evening settled across the valleys, painting the sky in deep violet and orange. In homes both small and large, the hearths glimmered warmly, and families rested nearby. Hestia moved from home to home invisibly, guiding the energy of each room, steadying fires, and ensuring the continuity of ritual. A father whispered instructions to a child learning to arrange offerings. A mother handed a sprig of rosemary to her eldest, and grandparents smiled quietly, observing how traditions endured through careful attention. The hearth held each moment, preserving its lessons and warmth for future generations. Returning to Olympus, Hestia knelt beside her eternal hearth. She traced her hands along the warm stones, feeling the pulse of centuries of care, tradition, and attention. The flames reflected the countless mortal homes she had guided that day, each one a microcosm of continuity and love. She allowed herself a moment of reflection, imagining the chain of hands and hearts that stretched across time. all connected by the quiet, steady rhythm of the hearth. In the hush of night, Hestia imagined a world at rest. Children dreamed softly, guided by the lessons of patience and care. Parents reflected on the day's rituals with gentle satisfaction. Elders rested, comforted by the continuity of tradition. The hearth glimmered in every home, a beacon of stability, love, and enduring presence. Hestia felt profound contentment, knowing that her subtle guidance ensured the preservation of values, the reinforcement of attentiveness, and the quiet anchoring of generations. And so, as the stars shimmered over Olympus and the mortal world below, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, care, and continuity. Through her presence, every hearth, whether humble or grand, remained a center of life, stability, and quiet guidance. Even as seasons changed, children grew, and families faced challenges, the hearth held firm, reflecting Hestia's enduring influence. In the still night, the goddess of the hearth felt fulfillment, knowing that through her gentle attention, tradition, connection, and care would persist across generations, anchoring the hearts of mortals and gods alike. The morning sun filtered softly across Olympus, illuminating the marble pillars and casting a gentle glow on the eternal hearth. Hestia moved quietly toward it, her hands brushing the warm, smooth stones, feeling the pulse of the flame beneath her fingers. Today, her attention turned to life's transitions, the subtle changes, milestones, and passages that touched mortal homes and hearts. She thought of beginnings and endings, small and large, and how the hearth could guide, comfort, and steady those navigating the gentle tides of change. In a quiet valley, a young couple prepared to move into their first home together. The house was small, simple, yet the hearth burned warmly, a steady anchor in the room. Hestia's presence flowed invisibly through the space, guiding hands and hearts alike. The couple arranged bowls of water, fresh herbs, and small loaves of bread around the fire, each gesture deliberate, filled with attention. Their fingers brushed lightly as they worked, exchanging shy smiles. Hestia encouraged patience and care, ensuring the hearth responded to their efforts with a steady, welcoming glow. The fire seemed to breathe with the rhythm of their excitement and nervous anticipation, reflecting their unity and attentiveness. Nearby, a mother prepared her daughter for the first festival she would attend without her childhood friends. The girl's small hands trembled as she helped arrange offerings around the family hearth, placing flowers, grains, and tiny candles in careful rows. Hestia's subtle warmth steadied her fingers, allowing her to complete the task with quiet pride. The mother's voice was soft and patient, guiding without pressure. The hearth glimmered steadily, and the girl felt a sense of accomplishment and continuity. Through the simple act of tending the fire, she learned that transitions, though sometimes unsettling, could be approached with mindfulness, care, and confidence. In another home, a family quietly celebrated the life of an elder who had passed peacefully during the night. Hestia's presence infused the hearth with comforting warmth, radiating reassurance to all gathered. Children and grandchildren observed the small rituals, noticing the careful placement of herbs, bread, and candles. The fire flickered gently, steady and alive, offering a sense of stability amidst the gentle sorrow. The hearth provided continuity, a reminder that life's cycles, though marked by both joy and grief, were anchored in enduring care and attention. Each person present felt connected, not only to the departed loved one, but to the generations that had come before and those yet to come. Even in Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal hearth with deliberate care. She arranged bowls of water, herbs, and small offerings, ensuring the flames remained steady and comforting. Her siblings passed by, some pausing to rest near the warmth. Zeus felt balance and steadiness in his thoughts. Poseidon sensed calm under the waves, and Demeter reflected on the quiet rhythm that reinforced growth and endurance. Even Hades, distant and solemn, appeared to notice the gentle reassurance emanating from her hearth, a reminder that transitions, both subtle and profound, could be met with patience and care. As the day progressed, Hestia's attention extended to households navigating small personal milestones. A child learned to prepare a simple meal, kneading dough with careful, deliberate movements while guided by the hearth's gentle pulse. A young apprentice stirred a pot of stew under a parent's watchful eye, learning that patience and attentiveness turned daily chores into meaningful rituals. Hestia's invisible influence ensured that every step, every gesture, was imbued with mindfulness, creating a sense of stability and accomplishment even during moments of change. Twilight arrived, casting long shadows across valleys and hills. Families gathered near their hearths, sharing quiet meals, soft conversation, and gentle laughter. Hestia moved among them invisibly, subtly guiding the energy of each home. Minor tensions dissolved more easily, nervousness was soothed, and hearts felt anchored in the steady warmth of the fire. Life's transitions, whether a first home, a new responsibility, or the passing of a loved one, were made gentler by her presence, each hearth serving as a center of continuity, comfort, and quiet guidance. Night deepened, and Hestia returned to Olympus, kneeling beside her eternal hearth. She let her hands brush along the warm stones, sensing the countless mortal homes she had guided through life's passages that day. Every flame reflected resilience, attentiveness, and care. Children had learned patience, parents had guided thoughtfully, and families had found stability amidst change. The hearth held each moment, preserving warmth and wisdom, carrying lessons from generation to generation. In the quiet night, Hestia imagined the mortal world at rest. The young couple settled into their first home, hearts eased by the steady hearth. Children dreamed softly, comforted by the continuity of care in their homes. Families reflected on milestones achieved, transitions embraced, and small victories recognized. The hearth glimmered in every room, a beacon of stability, love, and reassurance. Hestia allowed herself a gentle smile, knowing that her subtle guidance ensured the safe passage through life's gentle transitions. And so, as stars shimmered above Olympus and mortal villages glimmered with the soft glow of countless hearts, Hestia rested peacefully. The eternal flame she tended burned steadily, carrying her promise of warmth, care, and enduring presence. Through her quiet influence, each hearth, whether guiding a first home, a young apprentice, or family facing loss, remained a center of life, continuity, and gentle guidance. Even as people moved through change, the fire reminded them of stability, patience, and the enduring comfort of home. The goddess of the hearth felt fulfillment, knowing that her presence transformed transitions into moments of learning, connection, and calm resilience. Morning light spilled over Olympus, soft and golden, touching the marble halls and bathing the eternal hearth in warmth. Hestia approached quietly, her hands brushing the familiar stones. She felt the gentle pulse of the flame beneath her fingers, steady and reassuring, as though it carried the memories of countless lives, countless homes she had watched over across the ages. Today, she allowed herself to reflect on all she had nurtured, the hearts of mortals and gods alike, the countless moments of care, attention, and warmth that flowed through her presence. In the mortal world, life continued in a quiet rhythm. Villages bustled softly with morning tasks, families moving with deliberate care as the day began. Hestia's presence, unseen yet deeply felt, flowed through every hearth. She guided hands tending fires, children learning patience, parents balancing tasks, and elders sharing wisdom. The hearths glowed steadily, carrying warmth into each home, anchoring hearts and fostering a sense of continuity. In a small valley, a mother stirred a pot of morning porridge over the fire, while her children arranged offerings of fresh herbs around the hearth. Their movements were careful, deliberate, and soft. Hestia extended herself to them, subtly guiding the flames so that the heat was just right, the scent of warmth and comfort spreading through the room. The children laughed quietly as they learned the rhythm of domestic care, and the mother smiled, sensing the steady calm that seemed to emanate from the hearth itself. In another household, a father taught his eldest child to prepare bread, kneading the dough with patience and care. The fire beneath the oven glowed steadily, reflecting Hestia's guidance. The child's small hands pressed and folded the dough deliberately, learning the lessons of attention, mindfulness, and continuity that had been passed down for generations. The hearth, alive with warmth and gentle energy, became both teacher and companion. Even in Olympus, Hestia tended her eternal hearth with unwavering devotion. She arranged bowls of water, grains, and small offerings, ensuring the flames burned steadily and evenly. Her siblings passed by, sometimes pausing to bask in the quiet radiance. Zeus felt his thoughts settle, balanced by her calming influence. Poseidon sensed rhythm and order beneath the tides, and Demeter noted the steady pulse that reinforced life and growth. Even Hades, distant and solitary, felt a quiet reassurance emanating from the eternal fire, a reminder of constancy and care. The day moved forward, and the mortal world continued its gentle rhythm. Families gathered around communal fires, exchanging stories and soft laughter. Children played near hearths, learning attentiveness and patience, while elders guided them with quiet wisdom. Hestia's influence ensured harmony and motion, steadying moments of excitement, smoothing over minor frustrations, and weaving care into the fabric of daily life. The hearth became more than warmth. It was a guardian, a teacher, and a center of connection for all who gathered near it. As twilight approached, the skies painted in soft violet and gold, Hestia allowed herself to reflect on the countless lives she had touched. The homes of mortals glimmer with warmth, and hearths everywhere reflected her careful guidance. She imagined children dreaming softly near the fires she had steadied, parents resting with hearts eased, and families carrying forward traditions learned at her side. Every small gesture of care, every quiet act of attention had been strengthened by her presence. Evening deepened, and the mortal world slowed into rest. Hestia's gaze swept across valleys and villages, noting the glowing hearths, the quiet homes, and the steady rhythm of life that her influence maintained. She felt contentment, knowing that her presence ensured stability, comfort, and continuity. The hearth, both mortal and divine, burned steadily as a reminder that warmth, attention, and care endure beyond the passing of days, generations, and even centuries. Returning to Olympus, Hestia knelt beside her eternal hearth. The flames pulsed gently beneath her hands, a living symbol of all she had nurtured. She traced the warm stones with her fingers, imagining the countless hands and hearts she had guided. The fire reflected the lives of mortals, their families, their joys and quiet struggles, all held in the steady glow of care. Hestia allowed herself a deep, gentle breath, feeling the satisfaction of her eternal work. Though often unseen, her presence had been essential, threading warmth, patience, and stability through countless homes, generations, and rituals. She had been the silent guardian of hearth and home, the quiet teacher of attentiveness and care, and the steadfast guide of life's transitions. The fire pulsed steadily, reflecting the constancy of her influence, and Hestia felt a profound sense of peace. Night descended over Olympus and the world below, soft and hushed. Hearths glimmered in homes, villages, and palaces alike, each carrying the subtle, enduring warmth of Hestia's presence. The goddess rested beside her eternal flame, knowing that the mortal world would continue its rhythm, guided by the hearth, supported by the lessons of patience and attentiveness, and anchored by the quiet constancy she had provided. And so, in the hush of night, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, remained a steady, unwavering presence. Her eternal flame glowed softly, reflecting her promise to all mortals and gods: warmth, care, continuity, and the gentle reassurance that no home, no heart, no hearth would ever burn without her guidance. The world slept peacefully, held in the quiet radiance of the eternal hearth, and Hestia felt complete.